Well, that brings us on very nicely to the Hampstead child abuse. Now, this is a story that we've had to sit tight on, whilst there's been quite a lot of angst and outrage, which is understandable, on the internet about this case. I'm going to say that UK Column was aware very early on.
Wasn't it?
September last year. We've had the pleasure of meeting the mother of the children and her partner, and we are happy to state again today that we have total confidence in the testimony of the two children who are speaking about horrific abuse. We also have full confidence in the mother and indeed her partner, that they did all of the right things by discovering what had happened to the children and then informing social services. Now, we are not going to reveal the identity of the children. This has already been done over the internet, but the UK Column will not be doing that. So this is the photograph we're prepared to show of the two children. So, Louise, I know that you've had a look at the area and you found that at least some of the information that came out of the children rang true.
I had nightmares over this after seeing some of this back last year, but I decided I was going to go up to Hampstead and just check out the locations that the children were saying and whereabouts they were. And Sam, the blogger, accompanied me, and amazingly, the school is on a lower level with a very short passageway, between the school and the church.
Do you live here? Why? It's all over the internet, isn't it?
Oh, really?
Yeah. The two kids that went to the school here.
What happened? There's lots of kids at the school.
Yeah. There's loads of kids. 200 kids, isn't there? Nothing. If you don't want to talk, it's not a problem, mate. It's all over the net. Sorry? You don't want to talk to me, now you want to talk to me?
No, I don't want to.
You want to ask me questions? I ask you questions, you don't want to answer me, now you want to ask me questions.
Yeah, because you're taking a picture of my house.
Yeah, I told you. No, this is the school. Yeah.
I'm asking you, what are you doing? Why are you taking pictures?
Well, I'm allowed to. There's 3 words. Why are you eating babies? Why are you eating babies?
I'm not eating babies.
Well, yeah. You laugh. It's all over the net, isn't it? It's all over the net. Yeah? You laugh.
sending a copy to Boris Johnson. So we have built our own grand jury on this case. So this woman is arrested today, even though she's 1,000,000% innocent. We handed the evidence to the judge. She received it yesterday, and you should still come to arrest her. So if you arrest her, you are breaking the law. And this woman is, we sent the evidence, now they have the evidence. So they've got you should come here and arrest her. Here is the man that handed over the grand jury. Here's the man that did it. And at the end of the day, this woman has done nothing wrong.
Can I have a word at least now, please? Did you say you're tip staff? Or who is tip staff? You are the tip staff. So you've been tipped off by somebody who bought
They're not interested in all of this, couldn't give a shit. At the end of the day, we'll turn around and like her. And hold on, yeah, but I need you to second number. You know, they say I live there.
If I talk slowly, we can understand what you're saying.
Yeah, no, it's not even the real court. Listen, I'm going to hear the attorney general on the side of this case, okay?
Yeah, it's fine.
I have to. I'll give you right back to the
After the police station, I want to make sure she has her phone, money, things, etc. So what I want to do is rather than give you everything, make sure she has something.
Yeah. Listen, I'll give you a call back here on the website, okay? Okay, no,
You are saying forward on the case 16 buildings.
Just leave me alone, leave me alone.
This is my problem.
We can't let her go. But as you said, you are under arrest.
And on the grounds, they get
a high-ranking member of the cult, who's the one whose name is on the 31 of the 35,000 Barbara Khan company. I think she's the one who's implicated in fun as the cult advertises their child sacrifice and child sodomy and Nazareth.
And of course, there was a lot of the videos, a lot of the visuals Belinda made with her TV speak, where she's, it seems like she's supporting the case, but she's underhandedly put some poison in there, like
yes,
Hampstead, hands of Hampstead.
Hands of Hampstead.
Or
yes.
leave Hampstead alone.
Yeah, we believe that Belinda Ella's hiding like a fox in a den. We believe that Belinda Mackenzie is a high-ranking Masonic witch. And
this is the information we've been advised on.
And her Tavish speak, Hands of Hampstead, was when her Hampstead friends were telling her to help them. They were asking for help to ease off the pressure, to ease the pressure from Hampstead. What she should have been saying is, hands of the innocent children, you sodomizing child murderers. This is what she should really have been saying, not hands of Hampstead, which is a den of child murdering sodomite Talmudic beasts. Yes. And we'd like to move on now, because
there's another little point I wanted to make. Sorry to interrupt.
Go on.
That not just that we are disassociating from our Mackenzie friends, but also I would like to say that we stopped any communication with Hampstead Research as well after they published another important piece of court material, which is Jean Clement recordings.
They got from Sabine McNeil.
Exactly. After we expressly
They asked them not to. They asked us, may they publish it, and we told them that we were going to publish the Jean Clement recordings on our website as and when we were ready, and in the format that we wished to present it. In the same way, we told Sabine McNeil that we were going to publish the children's videos,
and please don't publish anything.
And this seems to be another template of theirs, that they love to leak. They like to leak sensitive documents. Yeah.
But not only this incident, there were quite a few things. For example,
look, it's a psyop. The Hampstead Research blog and website is a psychological operation. It's a PR operation. Charlotte Ward, whatever her name is, she's
Jackie Farmer.
Jackie Farmer. She's Belinda's little protege. She stayed a year or so in Belinda's house, and
he's been in close contact with Belinda and Savile the whole time.
Yes, and we're exposing them all now. They're counterintelligence operatives. They work all of these cases, along with the likes of Brian Gerrish
and
Bill Maloney.
Who actually
Collins,
who informed the police a few days after the first interview of the children, and we believe that perhaps Brian Gerrish is also responsible for assisting to kidnap the children.
When we arrived on September the 4th with the children from Morocco, he was the first person we contacted as he was recommended to us.
Actually, someone kept imposing him on us, but I would say.
When he arrived, he didn't arrive until the day after the children had been kidnapped. We spent the day together, and I was unable to give him a copy of the videos, but I managed to give him a copy of some audio of some of the videos. These audios somehow found their way into the hands of the local authority. And Ella was questioned about these audios.
And I couldn't make a sense out of it, because we never had audios. And but this word kept coming in during quite a few hearings. And then it's only after...
later on we realised, because when Brian spent the day with me, Brian Gerrish, Ella was at court for the first day of the hearings.
The proceedings,
yes. And so she was unaware that I was giving him the audio. And so it didn't click. But it wasn't until later that we both realised that the only person who had any audios was Brian Gerrish. However, we decided to give him the benefit of the doubt, because we couldn't be sure what audios the local authority were referring to. However, now we have new information, and it seems that an email detailed with a file detailing all the names, the distinguishing marks.
The baby.
Pardon?
The skulls of the baby.
You dance with the baby skulls?
Yes.
And who kills the babies?
Papa, me, Elisa. And
Who kills the babies?
Papa.
And what, he gets you to help him?
Yes.
Shoot.
So he tells us to hold the hand on the knife, and then he holds his hand on our hand. So then he cuts the baby's head off. And then he puts it upside down, and then we drain the blood.
And then what they do?
And then we cook it, and then we drink the blood, and then after we throw it down to the skull. We have a church, our own big church, and we use it for sex, eating baby, drinking baby's blood. We sacrifice the baby, we do sex to the babies, we throw them, when we're dancing with the skulls after the babies are dead.
What skulls?
The baby skulls, we put.
Nobody from what you might call the children or the mother's side proper. Grandparents not allowed in. So And I wasn't
Are
allowed.
you allowed in?
No, I just tried to get in, but I'm going to say about that. But anyway, it's about this sort of the narrative of what goes on now in this campaign outside, because we're going to kick off this campaign now. Up till now, because I've been Mackenzie Friend, I haven't been able to do very much public campaigning, because the moment I start public campaigning, I get kicked out of the court. Well, today I've been kicked out of the court anyway, so that's it. I'm not going to, hold back from now on. I mean, this is why I didn't call a huge rally this morning. I could have called lots of people. I knew you'd come up trumps, and I knew that my regulars would come up trumps, but, I could have got loads of people more. But because of being under the gag and the court, I didn't really feel I could. But now the gloves are off. And what we're going to try and do as this unfolds, because this case is going to go on for 3 weeks, and we won't be here every day, but we might be doing other things. We might be down somewhere else or outside, Parliament or, wherever we might be. Talking to other people who might be concerned about this, or maybe we'll do a little demonstration outside Barnet Council or something like this. Anyway, it'll be an ongoing thing, a sort of narrative, so that the public, who are already extremely very alert to this case, with hundreds of thousands of people checking the children's videos, they will want something to bite on. They won't be able to hear what's being discussed in there, and we can just imagine what's being discussed in there, because it's already completely skewed and rigged, the whole thing, against the mother and against the children. The outcome, I can almost write it now today. I don't know why they bother to go through the motions. They're going to try. If the mother comes back, she's going to be locked up. If the children are already locked up, they're not going to be let out. The school is not going to be investigated, and the other schools. Even if there's some token investigation of the schools, nothing will be found, because by now they'll have gone in over half term, they'll have cleaned out all the cupboards and lockers and spots of this and that on the floor, and sanitised and disinfected the whole place. There'll be no evidence whatsoever, and the whole thing will then, they think, die a death, right? And the children will have just had a sort of fantasy, and that's it. It's just beginning, and it's an opportunity, because this is very widespread. The children have said that it's not just one school, but it's several schools. In fact, in one of the videos, which, if you get on my mailing list, I'll make sure that you get all the sort of the hot stuff. You'll get the videos every day. You'll get when we bring them out, you'll get all the best sites to go to and things. If anybody wants to put their name on my mailing list, I will keep them updated, because I don't even do things by Facebook and Twitter so much, because I like things to circulate a little bit quietly, so nobody knows. There's too much bickering and fighting on Facebook, and people sort of taking sides and having a pop at each other. On email, you can just send information quietly in a civilised manner and get it across to people, and that's it. It's Tuesday the 17th of February.
Frightened and agitated.
Very frightened.
Very frightened and agitated.
Can I tell you something?
You can tell me anything you like, Diana.
And you listen to me carefully. Our words have power. And when we speak, the only thing we have to do is just to say we don't agree with this. And so when you speak words, you say things like, I just heard you said, if they want to take me, they can take me. So you are agreeing.
That's correct.
So you don't say this, because words have power.
Absolutely.
You don't agree for them taking you.
I do.
If they want to
you do agree?
No, you require them.
I want them to take me.
Requirement is different.
Because then we will raise the profile of the case.
Yeah, requirement is making them do something.
We don't agree with this. We don't agree with the children being taken away. We don't agree with the mother being subjected or threatened with arrest.
On the Cubenga and the tattoos of the alleged abusers, and lots more information that the children had disclosed. Ella had sent this file to Brian Gerrish and to my brother-in-law, Jean Clement, a special police sergeant. Ella had sent the file to these two on September the 11th. On September the 14th, Brian Gerrish sent the email to...
Your reply to me, Nick, was, I don't know what you mean by institutional paedophile rings. Do you understand what I was talking about 4 years ago now, Nick, and stay in my eyes?
Talking about taxes, thanks very much.
Oh, thank you. Gotcha. What about Leon Brittan? When are we going to get him out?
Tax threshold, because you talk to
institutional paedophile rings operating in this country now.
I'm sorry.
I just asked Nick Clegg. I just asked Nick Clegg a question.
Bill Maloney. Bill Maloney.
Forwarding my message.
You forwarded the message to a fellow we now know as Nathan Numbnut Wedger.
He put a video out a couple of months ago,
with John Wedger.
And he's saying, with the police officer, that he works with.
Yeah.
Right?
And that police officer...
Listen to that interview properly. He's actually saying he's worked for the police for 7 years.
Yeah, well, the police officer, is that Nathan?
I don't know. I'm not gonna...
Is that the Nathan geezer where you said when you had the two officers there?
Right, anyway, somewhere, his video.
John Wedger is Nathan, isn't he?
Yeah, it's only a new video. The only thing I think he's put out in ages, and it's not really about... It's about the fact that he's done a walk.
Yeah,
something.
Yeah, John Wedger, the walking whistle-blowing police officer, and he's full of shit and all. He's another one that's there. I mean, how can he be backing up Bill Maloney after I've exposed Bill Maloney and still trying to go on like he's a good guy?
Look at it properly. Bill's saying himself that it's like making a mickey out of people. But if you look at it like, he's saying that I've worked for the police. So he's saying he's working for the police. Even if he's a whistleblower or not, he's still working for the police, isn't it?
Well, I know he was police because that's the guy that picked me up to meet Bill Maloney in the first place. And Bill Maloney said to me, I'll send my police friend round to pick you up. Remember when I went to the Ben Fellows thing, the first ever thing?
I think that although off the records this is, because this is like, but we think that he may have been a police officer.
What, Bill?
But we're not in 1990. That didn't do anything.
Did you hear that? Andrew thinks that Wedger might have been the police officer that was investigating whatever this birthmark thing was in 1990. That just came out of his mouth. Not mine. Not mine. Right? Right. Next clip. Next clip. He's being called Nathan.
Yeah.
Nathan.
But people are calling him Nathan, but there's another Nathan that worked at that I know, which...
Hang on. He's not disagreeing with me there, that people are calling him Nathan. But Andrew is so up and down that he doesn't want to commit to certain things that we're talking about. But within that, he's even giving stuff away. Listen. He's being called Nathan.
Yeah.
Nathan.
But people are calling him Nathan, but there's another Nathan that worked at Nathan.
Right, so he's not denying that people are calling him Nathan. But he's saying there's another Nathan as well.
Yeah.
Nathan.
But people are calling him Nathan, but there's another Nathan that worked at Nathan, that I know, which isn't him. You know what I mean? He's a proper, genuine name.
John Wedger is a police whistleblower. As a CID officer, he discovered back coverings on child sex trafficking networks, which led to an investigative inquiry by the Independent Police Complaints Commission, delving into the depth of police involvement. He is one of the bravest men in the country today, by many people's reckoning. John Wedger, thank you for joining us. Please speak freely to this commission.
I'm recently retired from the Metropolitan Police, where I served as a detective. I specialised in child abuse investigations. And
Day 4, is it day 4?
Yeah. It's Tuesday, isn't it? Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, day 4.
So, John, you finished the walk. Well done. Tucker, really, really, really well done. And it's so that you can have a voice, and you're giving victims a voice as well.
Yeah.
But one of the most important things to me as a victim, John, is that you are encouraging police officers that are whistleblowers to come forward, because there is so much information out there that we will never know unless they come out. You know what, with the 100-year rule, you can't put these papers out, these documents, so we're going to wait 100 years and all the perpetrators are dead.
Gagging orders.
Yeah.
Gagging orders.
So, why did you do this walk, John?
Well, I'm a police whistleblower. Now, I faced total and utter bullying, adversity in order to have my voice, and it's all about being vocal.
Yeah.
You know, there was no way I was going to keep my mouth shut, but only in respect to what was right.
Yeah.
Now, if they can silence me, it's not just me. I found that in doing this, others came forward, other police officers who had experienced, in some cases, worse than what I've been through, but on the whole, almost identical sort of campaign of bullying. What chance do victims have? You know, and the reason we come forward is because how the victims were being treated. You know, and it's not just about people's inactions, it's also about their actions. You know, and it's wrong. It's wrong on every conceivable level.
But it's also the subject itself, John. People are frightened of that subject.
Well,
and something that we, both you and I believe goes on, and we actually know it goes on, is what's called S.R.A. Satanic Ritual Abuse. Now that goes on, John.
Well, this is the elephant in the room.
Yeah.
This is the elephant in the room. I think any act of sexual crime against a child has got a deep, dark, satanic element to it.
Yeah.
You know, and it's one of the things that the more you look into it, the more it crops up.
Yeah.
You know, and there is an organised element to it.
Yeah.
Now, initially, I didn't really come across it, but then it did start cropping up. And now, the more we're looking into it now, the more it's behind so much.
Yeah.
And then you've got to look at why are these people clamping down on us?
Yeah.
And these are people in position of privilege and power. What is going on? And one of the things that really sort of changed it was when there was a list that was compiled that we class as the RAINS list.
Oh, you said the name.
You know,
ritual abuse.
Ritual abuse. You know, it's an acronym. It stands for ritual abuse or something like that.
I remember the list. Yeah.
And on it, it was such a comprehensive list, and it was so well put together.
What kind of people were on it, John?
It was a mix. I mean, there were names that I never heard of.
Yeah, don't worry about too much about the names. What they've done, where they come from, there was politicians on the name.
There were politicians, there were police officers.
Lords.
There were lords, there were members of the clergy, there were drug addicts.
Yeah.
There were just normal standard people.
Yeah.
A lot of the people come from the care system.
So you're talking about victims, the victims that were... Yeah.
But not just the victims, what they also use, which is similar to what I found with the child prostitution, is that the victims would be used then to groom other kids involved.
Yeah.
And it's the same as on that list. It was like the victims of this were being used then to lure in people that of the similar background, the same ilk. And this is what grooming is.
Yeah.
You know, they're going about groomers are monsters. Well, you know, the thing is with it, a monster cannot groom a child.
Yeah.
You need someone that's endearing to that child.
Yeah.
We used to call them Romeos.
Yeah.
These lads would come in, and on one occasion was a woman, and just show a lot of compassion and a lot of love, because these are kids that have had a lot lacking in their lives emotionally and everything else.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden this void is being filled.
My brother Pete.
A police informant. He sent a message to Paul Armstrong, who we believe to be a policeman, who in turn passed the email to, I think, what's her name? Someone at the DPS. It was someone at the DPS. I think her name was Paul Armstrong. No, he sent it to Anne Bewley. To Anne Bewley. That's correct. At the Directorate of Professional Standards at the headquarters. Okay. Anne sent the email to someone called Francis Pollard, who passed the email to PC Craig Lang, who sent it to Victoria Barnes of the same unit, the SOECA unit, the same unit as the Steve Martin, who was investigating the case. So,
and she says in her email that that.
Oh yes, very very good point. She said the below email has found its way to the SOECA unit via DPS. I have read the content and it appears identical to a current investigation of yours, 241989-1/14, concerning allegations of sexual and ritual abuse at Christchurch Primary School. This is the important part. It says the email appears to be one in the same. She means one and the same. The email appears to be one and the same, sent by the mother to the informant, and the contents appear on your Chris report.
So it means some informant already sent this file to Steve Martin. And before this date.
Absolutely. And now...
and it was suspected it was the same Brian Garish who sent it by a different channel. And we still don't have information, but we believe it exists.
Yes. And the email has once again found its way back to the Steve Martin via informants, VPS, and back to him at his department. So this is how they covered up. This is how it was covered up. However, what I'd like to say about Brian Garish and Bill Maloney is that they were aware of the contents of this email, detailing the tattoos and distinguishing marks and the names of the alleged sodomites and murderers. However, they kept quiet. They haven't said a word, even though they had information to corroborate this testimony. They knew that it was true about the tattoos because Bill Maloney, in his own words, he revealed that he was privy to an interview by a young man named Andrew.
Chris is sitting there saying that DCI Settle came to him, and if DCI Settle came to Chris Fay, knowing that 2 years before the interview that we done, that Chris had been arrested and gone to prison, then how did he think that you was going to come across credible in 2014 with him sitting next to you? They must have known that.
No, but I think that it's been between, I really think about it, and I'm nothing to hide, because I'm just the same boat as you.
Yeah.
You know, and I feel really guilty and everything, and I want to help in any way I can. I can't tell you that I was used just as much as you. You've been used, I think, to discredit me, and I've been used to discredit you.
100%, mate. Absolutely, 100%. You're spot on.
He's been used to discredit me, and I've been used to discredit him. You heard him say it.
Because it's about getting all the other victims of NAPAC and everything, because the stuff that NAPAC was doing back then and stuff which weren't coming from me, you know, but I was just, and they weren't coming from Chris Fay, but also Chris Fay keeping all the nice juicy stuff.
Yeah.
And he's putting it all out of, you know, it's him that's caused all the big massive outcry over MPs and stuff again this time.
Yeah.
And they would, you know what I mean?
Yeah. They used you, man. They fucking used you to discredit the whole thing, and then on top of it...
1990 I was totally proved to be genuine and everything. On the grounds I had these photographs and this guy was actually turned up, this proper MP actually turned up. I didn't know it was an MP, I stopped numbers.
Yeah.
But the newspaper reporters knew it was an MP.
Yeah.
The police knew it was an MP, he must have done.
Yeah.
Right, so Andrew's talking about an incident there. Right, there was something that happened in 1990 when Andrew was in Amsterdam, and he was in a gay brothel, and an MP came to see him. Now this is the MP with a birthmark, and apparently this was put in the News of the World back in 1990 as well. And this is the guy who's got the birthmark, not Leon Brittan. So why was Chris queuing up Leon Brittan for the Express interview that I was filming? And plus, did that go in the Express? No, it didn't. But the headline was female MP abused boy in care. you would have thought if that was real, that would have been on the front page, but it wasn't. Right? And also you heard Andrew there talking about the fact that he didn't know that Chris Fay had been arrested and all the rest of it just before Andrew was going to sit there and do an interview with him for the Express. Andrew was never told that Chris Fay was arrested in 2012, right? Right, so let me go to the next clip now.
He put a video out a couple of months ago of
with John Wedger?
And he's saying, with the police officer, that he works with.
Yeah. And that police officer...
Listen to that interview properly. He's actually saying he's worked for the police for 7 years.
Yeah, well, the police officer, is that Nathan?
I don't know. I'm not good.
Is that the Nathan geezer where you said when you had the two officers there?
Anywhere somewhere, this video.
John Wedger is Nathan, isn't he?
Yeah, it's only a new video. The only thing I think he's put out in ages, and it's not really about. It's about the fact that he's done a walk.
Yeah, yeah, John Wedger, the walking whistle-blowing police officer, and he's full of shit and all. He's another one that's there. I mean, how can he be backing up Bill Maloney after I've exposed Bill Maloney and still trying to go on like he's a good guy?
Look at it properly. Bill's saying himself that it's like making a mickey out of people. But if you look at it like, he's saying that I've worked for the police. So he's saying he's working for the police. Even if he's a whistleblower or not, he's still working for the police.
Who was a victim of Leon Brittan. And during this interview with newspapers, Andrew revealed, described and drew the tattoo that Leon Brittan has on his pubenda. And the description of the tattoo matches the description of the tattoos that the children gave. So Bill Maloney and Brian Gerrish, that the testimonies of the children are true. And neither of them have said a word about the Hampstead case. Brian Gerrish and Bill Maloney were both aware of that email. Brian on the 11th of September, Bill on the 15th of September 2014. They were both aware of the email and its content. None of them have said anything. The only time Brian covered the story was 6 months later, when it was in the mainstream media, when the Daily Mail and others did an attempted hatchet job on Ella and myself. And then Brian was obliged to mention the story on UK column. Now, within those emails, you want to say something? Within those emails are references to the tattoos and the drawings that children made. 2 years earlier, Bill Maloney, he was privy to an interview that the fellow Andrew, who was abused by Leon Brittan, gave to newspapers. And in this interview, Andrew explained that he'd been abused by Leon Brittan, and Leon Brittan had the tattoo on his pubenda, and Andrew drew the tattoo. And Bill Maloney, in his telling of the story, he was perceivably stressed when he was telling the story to Lou Collins. Now, Lou Collins, she said on the day that Brian covered the story, he said that he'd been sitting on it for 6 months. She said Bill's aware of the story and he's working quietly in the background. So we were wondering what work Bill was doing in the background.
What were you saying about the mum? She's got no phone nearby her or internet?
Well, no, she has got. They're in some sort of remote place, I guess. So
right.
There's no internet. Well, they can get to an internet cafe in the local town.
Because I find it quite surprising that they haven't actually come out with a speech themselves, since it's all blown onto the net, a little statement from themselves. I know we've had the grandparents, but there hasn't been much from Abraham, has there, or the mum, to clarify the situation from their point of view.
I can't comment about that.
Yeah.
But if you're already under some injunction or with threat of arrest not to speak or say anything,
Yeah. Then obviously
you don't then sort of
start blabbering your mouth.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Yeah.
So
it's a tricky situation then.
it is.
Yeah, yeah.
It is. I think probably when it's all over, they probably will say something about it. I'm sure they will.
Yeah.
And of course, then there's the next stage, which could be appealing or could be putting in a counterclaim.
So this thing with the dolls and the blood on it and that was Sabine's idea, was it? Or someone
I hated that idea.
suggested it to Sabine?
No, it wasn't Sabine's. I think it's somebody else. Sabine picked it up and Sabine sometimes, you know, she thinks anything for publicity and doesn't think terribly hard about it because she's very much a publicity person. It's in good taste, and there's some things which are just appalling and grotesque.
So we're waiting for a next course of action at the moment. There's nothing planned at the moment. We're going to wait to see what happens on Thursday.
We are rather sort of, feeling we don't know.
And then we're going to see what's the best thing to do from there. But obviously, is there going to be a problem if we start turning up at Hampstead?
I would say we should perhaps do an action, but away from the town.
Yeah.
And we should wait and see how the public opinion comes out.
Yeah.
In the next few days, because there's a certain merit in letting things sort of settle down and letting people digest. And again, I say there's a lot more research to do. There's a lot more all of this whole situation. And there's also what the public can do is press for a new inquiry into the whole thing if that's what they feel strongly about.
Yeah.
But I would say let's play it by ear, because I always think we have to, whatever we do, we have to bring the public with us. We can't sort of it's crucial that
everyone's involved now, aren't they? Because it's all over the net and people's become involved.
It doesn't help if we have a war with the public going on when we've already got, if you like, a war with the Satanists. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
Where do they get it from?
Yeah.
So that's where we can possibly come in. And
everyone tends to eat.
Also, apart from anything else, I could do with some administrative help in trying to harness all the information that's come in just in these last few weeks while this case has been going on.
Yeah.
I have a lot of members of the public, not a lot, but a significant number of members of the public passing me information about this case.
So that's where we are.
We press on.
Yeah.
Public awareness is growing. Public awareness will continue to grow. We've got a fantastic rally coming up, which I think is probably, I hope, going to be our biggest anti-child abuse rally yet on the 11th of April.
End of April, yeah? End of April.
No, 11th of April.
11th
Saturday the 11th of April.
Okay, right.
And it's in central London. Start off around 10 o'clock in Trafalgar Square.
10 o'clock,
after about an hour of assembling and mustering, go down Whitehall to Downing Street.
Any famous faces going to be there from the conspiracy scene or
conspiracy scene?
The truthers movement?
Well, people from the truth movement. And, yes, and lots of the key activists. And
is anyone lined up at the moment?
To speak or
to speak.
I should imagine we'll all take the microphone. And, yes, you know.
Bill Maloney going to be there?
I hope so. Yes. Because I think it's going to be certainly the big one this spring.
Yeah.
And it's also going to happen just before the election, so we need to influence the electoral process as well, because what we need in Parliament are less politicians and less party people, but more just normal people, decent people.
Have you got a website for that so people can log on to and find out the details and the meeting points and
what about the rally?
Yeah.
Yes, if people go on Facebook and they go onto a website called United We Stand, which is Brenda McNamara's site. Right. Mumsy, her popular name.
Yeah.
They'll find all the details.
Right, okay.
And that's it, really.
And he knew about Leon Brittan too. And so when he received Alpha, he knew that this story was legit. So I want to know why Bill Maloney has said nothing about this case. Why, Bill? Why have you said nothing about the Hampstead case when you know it's legitimate, son? Eh? And you, Brian Gary, why have you said nothing? When you know it's legit and you had the emails and you passed them on to Bill Maloney and whoever else you passed them to. This is the question we want to know, but we know the answer. Your shield's the pair of you. And you're being exposed now.
And it looks like this type of people are planted there within the society, and they shouting loud about child abuse, and it is make it look like they're exposing.
Yeah.
However, they're merely saying what already is available there.
Absolutely.
And
they're trying to draw the people away from the real truth, and
that's right. Is to manipulate the perception of people.
Yes, and betray the children.
And also establish them as some credible authority in this field. So people victims who want to speak out, or witnesses who want to give evidence, they go to them.
Like Belinda McKenzie, standing outside with a megaphone outside the Royal Court of Justice.
And these people are never get arrested, nor this. While other people who talk a little bit, or they're in jail, like Melanie Shaw, for example.
Hey, they'll hound Ella out of the country, but Bill Maloney can go and he can give mouth to Nick Clegg outside the Houses of Parliament. He can go and give a load of mouth to, what's his name? What's the other fella, Max for? We've got, what's his name? Clifford, Max Clifford. But if we did it, we'd be nicked. We'd be nicked immediately. Alright? And they don't fool me, and I've had enough. Alright, they sat on the story, and they both had emails. And they were sharing emails with their graph with their mate Nathan Numbnuts Wedger. And they passed it, and the email got all the way back to Steve. Alright? It all got all the way back to Steve Martin.
And also, we're not quite sure what is the involvement of Brian Garish in kidnapping of our children was as well, because he knew about the story the whole time. Well, since almost this soon after we came back.
That's right.
I mean, it's shocking information. You know, I mean, these people are there, obviously, for people like yourselves, you know, that don't find any help from the authorities, and they've let you down big time. And now you look back, you can see that quite clearly.
Not only us, they betray everybody who comes into contact with them, because they're strategically, and they're strategically placed there to do that job, and they will lie, cry, and deny.
But this is the facts. We're talking the facts.
Yeah, to try and help other people that might be in the same situation and give them a warning, a heads up.
Well, it makes perfect sense.
And also to be warned, to be careful, to be cautious in this. If someone find themselves in this, in the circumstances, to know that be careful who you go and give information to.
It sounds really dodgy.
Oh, it's dodgy. It's dodgy, right, brother.
Yeah.
It's all dodgy.
Yeah.
So these cartel operatives, there's lots of them out there, but we only
came across those.
These are the ones we've come across, and we're exposing them because we're new to this.
Yeah. I mean,
this cult. They're trafficking. They're stealing babies. They're stealing thousands of babies. And they're giving them over to adoption agencies that they have financial interest in. Social workers have been caught with financial interest in fostering and adoption agencies, and they're stealing your children, and they're giving them over to sodomite families. And Belinda McKenzie and Brian Garish and Bill Maloney and Sabine McNeil, these people are involved in assisting these cult members. Alright, they've exposed themselves by their behaviour. Bill Maloney and Brian Garish know damn well that the story of their active children, that the story that Alicia and Gabriel have told is true. And yet they've said nothing. Only when Brian was obliged to say, because it was all over the newspapers. Something stinks.
Well, it was all over the internet as well, wasn't it? So he had to come back on board. But the thing is about the Hampstead area, it's quite a posh, rich kind of area, and you get a lot of city of London bankers there, politicians, and so this does go to the top. It's not just a little cult we're talking about here, is it?
Leon Brittan, he's got the same tattoo as these lot. Leon Brittan. And he's got
links to Hampstead as well there, hasn't he?
Who has?
Leon Brittan.
Of course he has. This is an extension of his car. That's why the tattoos, they will never investigate the tattoos. And that's why Brian Garish and Bill Maloney never said, because they know about the tattoos.
It's too big for them.
Yeah.
This is the big one. This is the big one, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
To redouble their efforts to investigate allegations of serious sexual assault against the late Lord Brittan. Just days after the former Home Secretary's death, Tom Watson has insisted he's right to speak out on behalf of survivors of child abuse. In his first broadcast interview, he spoke to Sky's Tom Parmenter.
At the peak of his career, Leon Brittan reached the very heights of government. A close ally of Margaret Thatcher, who served as a loyal Home Secretary. His family said last week his death followed a long battle with cancer. His legacy, though, is still overshadowed by questions about how he handled allegations of child abuse. Now, one MP has gone on the record, ready to go further than ever before.
My condolences to the Brittan family. I know they will be grieving a loved one, and what I say will be distressing for them. I wouldn't have spoken out unless I'd not had direct conversations with people who allege very serious sexual crimes. I've spoken to two people who I believe are sincere in their view that Leon Brittan broke the law.
The Metropolitan Police have confirmed they are still investigating the rape of a woman from 1967. Leon Brittan had been spoken to as part of the investigation. The police are also investigating claims from another witness, who detectives have described as true and credible. But crucially, at the time of Leon Brittan's death, none of it had been proven, none of it tested in a court of law. The many tributes to Leon Brittan last week showed how he was held in the very highest regard.
I particularly want to pay tribute to him as a former member of this House and former Home Secretary, and he was a kind, assiduous and brilliant man.
As far as I know, he behaved perfectly properly. I think it's a tragedy that his last days were dogged by these quite unsubstantiated allegations.
Official paperwork shows Leon Brittan was certainly aware of claims about other individuals. This letter to Geoffrey Dickens, just one example, where quite rightly he asked for more evidence. But the Westminster of the 1980s was a place where police investigations could be halted.
We cannot allow cases to go uninvestigated just because the police fear either a public backlash or the figures are too powerful. No one is beyond the law in this country.
Since making his claims, Mr. Watson has received new information about further abuse at Dolphin Square, close to Westminster. It's a residential block already under police investigation. The new claims do not relate to Leon Brittan, but suggest what some survivors know, that the full truth still hasn't come out. Tom Parmenter, Sky News.
A court has heard claims that Gary Glitter abused a 13-year-old girl who was introduced to him backstage as a surprise. The alleged victim said the star kissed her and slid his hand up her skirt. Glitter denies all allegations.
And it looks like this type of people are planted there within the society, and they shouting loud about child abuse, and it is make it look like they're exposing.
Yeah.
However, they're merely saying what already is available there.
Absolutely.
And they
They're trying to draw the people away from the real truth, and
their job is to manipulate the perception of people.
Yes, and betray the children.
And also establish them as some credible authority in this field. So people victims who want to speak out, or witnesses who want to give evidence, they go to them.
Like Belinda McKenzie, standing outside with a megaphone outside the Royal Court of Justice.
And these people are never get arrested, nor this. While other people who talk a little bit, or they're in jail, like Melanie Shaw, for example.
Hey, they were hounded out the country, but Bill Maloney can go and he can give mouth to Nick Clegg outside the Houses of Parliament. He can go and give a load of mouth to, what's his name? What's the other fella, Maxwell? We've got, what's his name? Max Clifford. But if we did it, we'd be nicked. We'd be nicked immediately. Alright? And they don't fool me, and I've had enough. Alright, they sat on the story, and they both had emails. And they were sharing the emails with their graph with their mate Nathan Numbnuts Wedger. And they passed it, and the email got all the way back to Steve. Alright? It all got all the way back to Steve Martin.
And also, we're not quite sure what is the involvement of Brian Garish in kidnapping of our children was as well, because he knew about the story the whole time. Well, since almost this soon after we came back.
That's right.
I mean, it's shocking information. You know, I mean, these people are there, obviously, for people like yourselves, you know, that don't find any help from the authorities, and they've let you down big time. And now you look back, you can see that quite clearly.
Not only us, they betray everybody who comes into contact with them, because they're strategically, and they're strategically placed there to do that job, and they will lie, cry, and deny.
But this is the facts. We're talking the facts.
Yeah, to try and help other people that might be in the same situation and give them a warning, a heads up.
Well, it makes perfect sense.
And also to be warned, to be careful, to be cautious in this. If someone find themselves in this, in the circumstances, to know that be careful who you go and give your information to.
It sounds really dodgy.
Oh, it's dodgy. It's dodgy, like, brother.
Yeah.
It's all dodgy.
Yeah.
So these cartel operatives, there's lots of them out there, but we only
came across those.
These are the ones we've come across, and we're exposing them because we're new to this.
Yeah. I mean,
this cult. They're trafficking. They're stealing babies. They're stealing thousands of babies. And they're giving them over to adoption agencies that they have financial interest in. Social workers have been caught with financial interest in fostering and adoption agencies, and they're stealing your children, and they're giving them over to sodomite families. And Belinda McKenzie and Brian Garish and Bill Maloney and Sabine McNeil, these people are involved in assisting these cult members. Alright, they've exposed themselves by their behaviour. Bill Maloney and Brian Garish know damn well that the story of their active children, that the story that Alicia and Gabriel have told is true. And yet they've said nothing. Only when Brian was obliged to say, because it was all over the newspapers. Something stinks.
Well, it was all over the internet as well, wasn't it? So he had to come back on board. But the thing is about the Hampstead area, it's quite a posh, rich kind of area, and you get a lot of city of London bankers there, politicians, and so this does go to the top. It's not just a little college we're talking about here, is it?
Leon Brittan, he's got the same tattoo as these lot. Leon Brittan. And he's got
links to Hampstead as well there, hasn't he?
Who has?
Leon Brittan.
Of course he has. This is an extension of his car. That's why the tattoos, they will never investigate the tattoos. And that's why Brian Garish and Bill Maloney never said, because they know about the tattoos.
It's too big for them.
Yeah.
This is the big one. This is the big one, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Why should it be the big one? They're killing children. They're sodomizing children. They're trafficking children.
And then he would just tell me about this super flirty 4-year-old. And how can she be super flirty? She's 4 years old.
Jailed for 35 years. Former Lost Profit singer Ian Watkins will spend the next 3.5 decades behind bars for a string of horrific child sex offences, including trying to rape a baby. One former girlfriend first reported him to police 4 years ago after he started sharing some of his sick fantasies.
Because he began telling me about all the underage fans that he took the virginity of, and he was proud of it, and how he abused them, and how his favourite video that he had was of a 14-year-old schoolgirl stripping off and saying her name and date of birth to the camera just before he took her virginity, and just all the other vile things that he said he'd done to these fans. And that I would say to him, stop talking, I don't want to hear it, just stop talking, it's upsetting me. He started saying that he wanted to get me pregnant just so that he could rape our daughter.
Watkins exploited the adoration of his female fans, convincing them to let him commit horrific acts of sexual abuse against their own children. A total of 90 child abuse images were discovered on his computer, 24 of which were in the most severe category. And a 15-minute video was filmed in a London hotel showing him attempting to rape a baby twice. Cardiff Crown Court heard that, despite the evidence, he refused to accept he was a paedophile. He even referred to the case as megalols in a phone conversation to a friend last month, saying he could not understand what people were upset about. His defence barrister tried to argue that his life had unravelled due to the pressures of fame and his drug addiction, but this has been rejected by criminal psychologists who say drugs do not cause behaviour such as this.
This is the one that's exposing them.
But all the government, they're all doing it.
Yeah.
So paedophilia. Don't use the word. Don't use that term, paedophilia. Paedophilia means child lover. Child lover, friend of a child. They're not pedophiles. They are sodomites.
Yeah.
The right of sodomy is implemented in order for them to control and bind the children to them, and to control the whole global population. They use the right of sodomy and child sacrifice, and they've been using it for 26,000 years, but they've come to the end of their rope. But they don't see it. They refuse to see it. But it's the end of their time now. This is why this information is being revealed, and it's exposing people. It's exposing people, and more people will be exposed. More people will be exposed.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's really good info, and I appreciate you sharing it with everyone. It needs to get out.
We're sorry to have to give this information. We're sorry to
shocking.
It leaves a nasty taste in your mouth when you realise that there are people whose job it is to prevent you from getting to the truth. And these people are presenting themselves as paragons of truth.
And I mean, there's people actually dealing with them right now as well, and people that probably would have gone to them as well.
There are people who are being deceived by them as we speak.
Yeah.
And we're letting the information out now, so that others will think twice.
Another one, Abraham talked about this terminology they're using, yeah?
Yes, sorry, paedophile.
There is
Don't
another.
call them paedophile, sodomite. Sorry.
No, I was going to mention that people using the word kids a lot, or kid.
Yeah.
This is it's a wrong term to call our children kids, because the kids are sacrificial goats, and this is one of their statistic terminology.
This is how
the mind control, brainwashing.
This is how they manage our perception.
I mean, the one that I don't like is when they keep saying we're going to get to the bottom of this.
You just have
we want to get to the bottom, yeah.
Yeah, they keep repeating that one a lot as well.
Yeah, they like it. Yeah, that's their little sodomite in-jokes.
Exactly.
When you start to analyze the way Belinda Mackenzie, for example,
in her letter,
it talks.
In her letter,
or Hampstead, the way the Hampstead research is written, or the blogs written, the way the newspapers are written, the way that all these politicians talk, they talk travesty, and of course to get rid of me, you know, put a serious pressure, or by
11. Listen to this one though.
I've got the 5 of me at the moment. They're on me.
By well.
Yeah. No, read it.
What you done to me, bro? Yes, mate. Mate.
You stay blessed.
I need to find my... It's all good because we all know now, innit?
Absolutely, and we got it. Not only do we know, but we got proof.
Yeah.
Always
comes in handy, innit?
This is the worst thing about it. We got proof, and we got proof out of Bill Maloney's mouth as well, because he chat. He's the one who told me that he knew about the tattoos.
Yeah.
That's how I know he knows about Leon Brittan's tattoo. So if you know that Leon Brittan's got a tattoo, and then you get an email from 2 little children about 2 little children who says that they've been raped and sodomized and babies are being killed by people with tattoos, why don't you say something, you piece of shit? Yeah, we've never shared this information with no one. We ain't never said it with no one. So we're saying it to you for the first time. And so when we're saying it to you, it's going in my head, and my head's going, what?
Yeah, and then because
it was made by it was a sodomite charter.
Then
Social Services was formed by Barbara Khan and Peter Wrighton, that's correct.
Then people subsidize it by paying taxes and supporting this cult.
We're paying for them to steal
We are paying them for stealing our children, sodomizing children, killing them, and brainwashing us and children, and they just take full advantage of us, really. I mean, it's so open.
We are their cattle.
Well, this is exactly
we are
the same thing.
We are their cattle.
But we're not, but that's what they think.
Precisely, according to them, but we're just showing them that we're not your cattle.
Yeah, and we're not afraid.
We're not afraid, we're your brethren. We're going to save you. Even though you're trying to bury us, we're here to help you.
Exactly, to come.
We don't want fight, we don't want war, we don't want to kill, we don't want to hurt. We want to forgive and love you and help you.
But stop doing it. Stop doing it. You have to
stop.
There is no other choice. Yeah. You can either stop peacefully or otherwise. Or God will deal with you with your otherwise.
People are good. Allah. Bless you. Thank you for your patience. Thank you. We trust you got some good stuff that you can use there, bro. Bless you.
And good night to you so much. Thank you so much for being here.
Now, her partner is a man called Martin Smith. And to start the process of getting her children, he was labelled as being a paedophile. In fact, he's been convicted of being a paedophile in Manchester Crown Court, and he's now serving time for being a paedophile. I don't think he was a paedophile. In fact, he's been convicted of being a paedophile in Manchester Crown Court, and he's now serving time for being a paedophile. I don't think he was a paedophile. I believe that he was stitched up in order to steal these 2 children, in order...
Yo, did you hear that? This is a guy fucking with people's heads, man. There's a man that's been convicted in a Crown Court, so assumably in front of a jury, right? Yeah, 12 good men and women. Has convicted a man of paedophilia, and he's doing prison for it. Or he pleaded guilty, whatever, and there was no need for a jury. Either way, there's a man being convicted of it, and Brian Jerish just doesn't think he was one. Just doesn't think he was one. But he sits on a show, doing off it week in, week out, claiming that the old Scottish establishment are paedophiles. Yet there's a man being convicted by, assumably, a jury of his peers, or at least a guilty plea, that he just doesn't think. What a fucking dangerous man he is, you know. In the position of influence that he's in, that man is a dangerous man. And I would say I wouldn't trust him as far as I could throw him, but he's a skinny piece of shit, and I'd be able to throw him pretty far. But yeah, just don't trust anyone. But that's what you call a complete head fuck. You know what I mean? Brian Jerish, you're wrong, mate. Anyway, peace.
I'm going to put that. I've been putting it up for a few years.
Well, I mean, obviously within the context.
Yeah, within a new context now, where obviously I'm being heard.
Yeah, because we're just going through slowly but surely through a timeline.
Yeah.
And I just want to add, look, like I said, I'm pretty straight talking, and this is something I'm not used to doing. But I have to say, listen, if we're gonna get any truth out of this and other injustices like Melanie Shaw, right? I think the audience need to have a bit more of an attention span than a fish. You know, you guys need to just take time and listen, right? And learn what's going on. Because if this can happen to Brian Harvey, and if it can happen to Melanie, it could be you next. Right? And I think it's very important that we just go step by step and listen to the injustice.
Good afternoon. It's Tuesday, the 30th of June 2015, just after 5 o'clock, and welcome to a special edition of UK Column News. And, well, I'm sure you can see I've been joined in the studio by Beechwood child abuse survivor Melanie Shaw. And Melanie's arrived at the UK Column offices this afternoon, and she's kindly agreed to be interviewed in a short interview just to have a look at some of the facts surrounding what she has suffered really over the last few years, and how Melanie has been treated by the British state. So that's really the introduction. Melanie, thank you very much for coming to see us.
It's my pleasure, Brian.
What we're going to do is just, for people who don't know anything about you, we'll just give a little summary. And you're recently out of prison. You've been in prison in Sodexo HMP Peterborough twice. And you have had a particularly bad time in the prison. But you were released a few days ago after spending about 6 months in prison, much of the time spent in solitary confinement. Tell us how you ended up in prison this last time. Why were you put in prison?
It's all rather strange, to be honest, Brian. I rang the NHS up. I had a cotton bud stuck in my ear, and a paramedic came out. He offered me no treatment whatsoever. And I'm used to a good service from the NHS, to be fair. And I thought, to protect my own interests, I will film it. And I went upstairs to get my camera. I locked my front door for 5 minutes. And I said, I'll send this viral on the internet. You know, you can do open heart massage. Why can't you? As a paramedic, why can't you remove a cotton bud from my ear? He asked me to unlock the door, and I unlocked the door. I was then harassed non-stop for 7 days by the police.
This is Nottinghamshire Police?
Yeah, under Chris Eyre, the Chief Constable. I was harassed horrifically on a daily basis, arrested, had my back door smashed in, they tried to section me. I don't understand it doesn't make sense.
Right, so you were put into HM Prison Peterborough, and then a trial took place, and I think I'm correct in saying that as far as you knew with the trial, well, all you knew was there was a video link between you and the court.
There's not actually been a trial though, Brian. You see, I pled not guilty. I was under so much duress and I had a nervous breakdown. I'd rang the police, the Nottinghamshire Force. I'd asked for the Samaritans. They was making me feel suicidal. I ended up self-harming, which looks absolutely horrific. I'd never done that before. Well, the first time I was in Sodexo, I'd never done that in my life. And it just got to the point, I think they just want to dispose of me and put me out of the way somewhere.
So did you actually appear in the court in person?
Well, I pleaded not guilty because I'd had a breakdown, and what was very strange was that I was expecting a trial on the 2nd and 3rd of July, but they said that I'd pled guilty.
And you hadn't?
No, of course not.
And you'd only spoken to them by video link?
Yes. I didn't recognise my lawyer, Digby. He wasn't there. And they said, "You're guilty." I said, "What about the trial?" They said, "You can go home now."
So you'd spent virtually 6 months in Sodexo prison on remand.
That was horrific.
And then they suddenly say to you, "Well, you can go home now." Was it that simple? And they then released you?
I feel so worn down with what I've endured in that prison again, because the last time I was in the prison, I did speak to Richie Allen.
Yeah.
Is it Richie Allen?
Richie Allen, yeah.
And I spoke about the treatment at the hand of the governor, Nick Leader, at Sodexo. And I mean, I'm not a conspiracy theorist or anything like that, but what they did to me, and I saw what they did to the other girls in that prison, it was as if they had it in for me. But what I don't understand, Brian, is I had a functioning life before I was sub-blue on Operation Daybreak.
Right, we're going to come on to that, Melanie. So just to talk about, or finish off really, the bit about the prison is that this last time that you were in prison, where you were in solitary confinement for virtually the whole time, you said virtually 6 months or bar 2 weeks.
Just locked in a cell. I've been back under my GP and, you know, but my leg has healed.
Okay. Now I'm going to call it your journey, not a nice journey, but your journey, which ends up with you in prison on 2 occasions in Sodexo prison in Peterborough. But the journey starts with you blowing the whistle on child abuse. Not only your own child abuse, but that other children were experiencing Beechwood Children's Home in Nottingham. Now, yes. For some of the audience today, this is a very hard subject. So we're just going to keep it very simple. But yeah. You experienced some terrible abuse yourself, but you also saw things happening to other children. It was what I saw they did
to the boys.
Just tell us what was happening to the younger boys.
The man that did it, he's dead now, Mark Lucia Griffiths. So they was put on minibuses and taken down to London. He put Freddy Krueger masks on and buggered all the boys in the basement and raped us all.
Right. Okay.
And they killed children there.
Right.
Norma Nutt.
Right. Let's just stay on the basic facts.
I should be dead.
But you're not, which is very good. And in 2011, you went and reported what you knew to Nottinghamshire Police.
And my life's been destroyed ever since I did that.
Right.
And I just I don't want no child to go through and care what we did in them institutions. They're terrible.
Right. So have you had any support from any of the institutions in Nottingham that say they're there to help? Have you had support in the community from Nottingham Social Services?
I contacted NAPAC. They wouldn't speak to me because it was a live investigation. My MP, Chris Leslie, he's been very good.
Right, he used to write to you in prison?
Yes.
Right.
Sue Johnson.
Okay.
She ran a charity called POW in Radford, and she gave me a lot of support, and she continues to be there for me.
Do you think that Nottinghamshire Police have been your friend and supporter. When you came forward as an abuse victim yourself and a whistleblower, were Nottingham police there to help you? How did you feel that they treated you?
I'm not going to tell lies now. I started off with...
We're just going to talk in
Am
general
I allowed
terms.
to mention names?
No, I think for this programme, you just talk in general about how
Well,
you were treated.
all I'll say is that my handler now is Chief Superintendent Helen Chamberlain. They don't respond to phone calls.
Yeah.
And I just had to run away from Nottingham.
Why have you done that, Melanie?
In the close that I'm stood in, Brian.
Why have you run away?
Because the police phoned me, harassing me, saying, we're outside your house. Where are you? We will come and pick you up. I said, what is it about? So I can contact a lawyer. We can't tell you because of data protection, but we'll come and get you.
Yeah.
So I travelled for 24 hours on the train, and the only place I knew to come was to see you.
Right.
And so, because I've been okay while I'm here, but they've stolen my son Damien,
right,
as well. And I don't know what to do now. I do trust some people, they're not all bad, but I don't know. The thing is, without saying too much about Operation Daybreak,
Well, that operation's going on, so we don't need to talk in detail about it.
it's an open secret for 25 years.
As to what was going on.
At Beechwood,
I think-
Beechwood was something different. It doesn't go on everywhere. Beechwood was unique in a horrific way.
Right.
And all I want to do is, if I've got one dream,
Yeah.
there's no support network for the victims, and several have recently died.
Right.
The brother of a close friend of mine has just died. And there is a child abuse inquiry going off in our country, and the victims aren't getting a voice.
No. Melanie, I'm going to say it's been very brave of you to come on to UK Column today and tell us what you've told us. You may think that you've only given us a tiny bit of what you know and what was really going on in Beechwood Children's Home. And of course, Beechwood was one of several other children's homes just in the Nottingham area. The same pattern is followed across Britain today. But we can do more on another occasion. So I'm going to say thank you very much.
There's one thing I want to say.
Okay.
And I do have a sense of humour, Brian.
Okay,
I am
I know.
traumatised. I've got a terrible cold sore.
Yeah.
But Lorraine Lambert, I love you. Will you marry me?
Okay.
Everybody knows.
Melanie?
HMP Peterborough, she's a lovely officer.
Well, that is a good place to end, that we know that, of course, in any organisation there are always good people. So I'm going to say how remarkable that Melanie Shaw, who has endured 2 periods in prison, not for being a vicious criminal, but simply having the courage to stand up as a child abuse survivor to tell the truth, not only about her own abuse, but that about other children. And what has been her reward from David Cameron's Conservative government? It has been for her to be pressured and bullied and harassed, and ultimately to be put in prison. Trials held in closed courts, better known as star chambers, and as you've heard from Melanie there from her own mouth, she didn't even appear in front of a jury, but is simply on the end of a video link, and was in any case denied the legal representation which she wished. This is the true state of child abuse in Britain. It can be no accident that this is going on. It is going on with the full collaboration of all areas of government. And of course, at the moment, we have the remarkable situation where the head of the Crown Prosecution Service, Alison Saunders, has been able to protect Lord Janner from appearing in court. That decision recently overturned, we know, so there's going to be a finding of facts. However, isn't it remarkable that Alison Saunders could put such effort into effectively shielding Lord Janner, whereas for Melanie Shaw, somebody who has endured unbelievable abuse, not only at the hands of her own family, but then under the so-called care of children's services in Nottingham, that Melanie Shaw can be put in prison twice, denied medical treatment, and as you've also heard directly from Melanie, that she could be put in solitary confinement for the best part of 6 months.
Right.
This is the unbelievably cruel treatment from the British government today. It's up to all of us who now know what is really going on to make the effort to shout, to petition, to demonstrate, and above all to directly challenge the government ministers who are responsible for this terrible state of affairs. We'll leave you there to think about that. We'll have a normal UK column news at 1 o'clock tomorrow. Melanie, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for letting me tell the truth, Brian.
It's been our pleasure. You will be back with us, I'm sure. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Right, so here we are in Nottingham, just been to Melanie Shaw's court case. I've got with the lady who was involved in part of that court case, and we've basically come here to interview and see what's going on and get a first-hand witness view of what Melanie Shaw is about and what the court case was about. Right, over to yourself. You want to introduce yourself?
My name's Alison Ellis. I'm the mother of the teenager who Melanie Shaw had one who appeared in court for, amongst other charges, what she was up for. I do believe it was for malicious and threatening behaviour, and she pleaded guilty to it, and yesterday she was sentenced.
What did she get as far as the sentence was concerned?
Regarding my daughter, she got a fine and court costs because the nature of the charge and what's been involved over the months, and also it's of a very similar nature to other charges which Melanie was up in court for.
Right.
Basically, for restraining orders were placed on Mel Shaw for life. If she breaks these, i.e. if she puts anything on the media, i.e. Facebook, any form of media, Facebook, YouTube, regarding my daughter or
the court case itself, or anybody to do with witnesses or something, was it?
Well, anything to do with the court case, directly to do with my daughter or indirectly published on the Facebook, on the YouTube, on any forms of messaging, the judge has told her she will get 5 years imprisonment, and this is a lifetime restraining order. There was 4 put in place yesterday because the judge stated there was a pattern.
Yeah, a pattern which goes back quite a lot of years before she's even made herself public as to what's happened with her child abuse.
That's true, that is.
Yeah.
I've known Melanie Shaw many years. I knew her through a past life, what I used to be part of. I worked at an organisation which Melanie Shaw claims I was fired from. I wasn't, I left. I've been there many years. Melanie Shaw was only a service user there, and the organisation is POW, Prostitute Outreach Workers. We worked with on and off street prostitutes and people with substance misuse. I haven't signed any confidentiality act, and I'm not disclosing personal things about her, but she was a service user. She was never in no full-time payment there. This has finally come to a head and been brought to public knowledge because the judge basically said there is a pattern here, and obviously he's recognised it.
The pattern being, if you don't mind me asking, what was Melanie actually doing with your daughter? What was going on?
Mel Shaw used to tell a lot of lies about me. I have nothing to do with her. I don't even have her in my house. I haven't for many years. She becomes infatuated with people. She used to leave little gifts on my doorstep. She'd ring power up when I was working there. She's done it to other members of staff which work there. If you are of a professional body, i.e. a counsellor or any form of medical, they will disclose this to you, that she never worked there and she was only a service user. And for the record, I never got sacked, I left.
As far as the court case itself, this affecting your family, it's like the judge was almost referring to her as a stalker, and she'd done this on more than one occasion within a lifetime,
Well, very much.
And these
so.
aren't just stories; these are recorded. There was photographs that were shown to the judge that she'd sent to people, like explicit photographs of herself sent to people, like and having sexually hinting at them that she fancied them, and some of it went into quite gross detail, the judge said, didn't it?
Well, very much so. I can't really comment on the other two charges, which Melanie Shaw did receive custodial sentences for, but they were suspended sentences, and they totaled to 6 months. And those other two females Melanie Shaw has had a lifetime restraining order put on her regarding this. Melanie Shaw cannot come within 200 yards or metres of my daughter, myself, and these two other females. And the judge said basically because when she came out of prison on her last time, she didn't access no services, and she just basically told her to be careful of her friends who she's picking and to stop going in front of the camera all the time.
I mean, Melanie Shaw, right, at one point, I'd like to pick up on that point. Melanie asked the solicitor, obviously, to give a full account of what made her commit these offences in the first place, and she blamed it all on the pressure of people who were bringing her childhood abuse to light in the public eye. She herself were blaming these people who have been trying to help her for the behaviour of the stalking that had took place.
Yes, she did do.
But not only with you, but with other people as well, that she's already on a suspended sentence for.
That's right. I mean,
I mean, there's clear evidence of that. The letters were there, the photographs were there, the screenshots of Facebook that she had sent other people that she was.
That's correct, and it was also mentioned that she was ringing these other people's families up. That came out in court as well. I found it quite scary to hear of the history and of, I won't say something very similar, but as the judge stated, you know, this is a pattern which has happened for females. This is a pattern. I personally know of other people what this has happened to. I'm not a person to start slandering or slaughtering. When it comes to my child, leave my child alone. You accuse my child of X, Y and Z. You have no proof of this. My child has been made very ill through this. Melanie Shaw even came to my house once she'd been charged, when she noticed my car wasn't here. She even came and was knocking on my door, and I had to inform the police yet again. When she put these pictures up on the internet regarding my daughter and writing all the blarney, she basically looked like a laughingstock with all the incoherent crap what she put there.
Yeah.
You know, because she just digressed into one into the other.
Yeah.
This has had a really bad effect on my daughter, and you know, to the extent that medication has had to be involved in this and things. My daughter will not go out by herself. From when these pictures were put up on the Facebook, my daughter has been targeted. They were put up on the Friday, Saturday. My daughter was verbally abused by a male driving past in a car.
Yeah.
So, you know, it makes me wonder, were these people sent to where we live? Because where we live, it's not easy to find.
Yeah.
You know, and it's not on. I've got to be there for my daughter.
Yeah.
And I am a survivor myself. I was in red cot. I was physically abused.
Yeah.
You know, we all deal with things differently.
Yeah.
But please,
Yeah,
you know,
at that point, I'd like to like the sort of summing up of the judge, as far as I was concerned. What they were saying, what he basically said was, you need to stay away from people who are making your childhood abuse public. That you've got a mental illness that's going to take a long time to recover, which is true. You know, she's a survivor herself, but this survivor has become an abuser, and for that reason alone, and for the fact that the judge said that, you know, she's a prolific liar, and
he did, basically.
she's got lots of other mental issues going on, and schizophrenia and all sorts of stuff. So she wouldn't be a person that you'd put into a trusted position to manage anybody or anything. You know, she is a victim herself, and she needs people to help her. She mentally isn't capable. She tries to be. You know, in her defence, you know, she is a very sick person, and far too sick to be.
Basically, it seemed like
to making it public and.
Well, definitely. Well, the judge did say that because of the last sentence, which Melanie Shaw did, well, because she literally left from the dock and didn't go downstairs, there was no care package put in place for her.
Yeah, that's right.
And then I can't remember where it was where she said she went to that day to do some filming.
That's correct, yeah.
And so, you know, at the same time, being an adult, whether you have a mental health illness or not, you know right from wrong. And if you know that you need care and things, for you to be led by these people to go and do the filming. The judge even also told her, you know, stop.
Yeah, the judge held responsibility for the system failing her themselves, because they released her with nothing.
Leave the court there and that. But then as an adult, you know right from wrong. You know you have certain conditions. It even came out that Melanie still has a Class A substance misuse and is being treated for it, and that she does have mental health issues from the reports. You know, I just hope she leaves us alone, because my daughter's in pieces. Like I said, she will not go out by herself, and these other people, and the other people who it hasn't got to court. But like I said, the judge did say to her she has 6 months suspended for 2 years, and if she breaks any 4 of the restraining orders which have been put on her for life, she will get a prison sentence of 5 years. If she goes back, it gets in trouble over the 2 years, she will do the 6 months, and if it's breaking the restraining orders, she will be doing 5 years and 6 months, and whatever she gets into trouble for.
Another thing I'd just like to touch on as well, I'm not going to actually say what it was on her past criminal records, but twice she's been charged with a charge that can actually get your life.
That is true. That is so true.
From the past, one not too recent, but twice she's, you know.
In 1992, the judge said, because I had to look round with my mouth open.
I don't think it's all right to deliver that, but it was a shock to hear some of the things that she's been charged with in the past. You know, and that just proves how ill she really is. You know, in what she says, what she does. You know, the sort of, you know, there's truth in what's happened to her in her childhood.
Very much
It's
so.
very much so. Like,
she's got some very deep-rooted, serious, complex abuse to deal with.
Yeah.
You know, and people who are supporting her, it's brilliant.
Yeah,
but you
absolutely.
know, they need to be supporting her in the right way,
In the
and
right
not
way,
boosting her ego for her to be going and popping her mouth off.
Yeah.
You know, it's about her dealing with her and not becoming an abuser herself one way or the other. Also picked up on a lot of things, i.e. about you know, the about her using her situation and going on about conspiracy theories.
Yeah.
And there's one thing I will say about the judge. You know, me personally, I think things were dealt with correctly, but that's my opinion. It was my daughter who had these malicious things and acts done against her.
Yeah.
He turned round and he said plain and simple to Melanie Shaw's face, and regarding the conspiracy theory, because she wrote all about this in statements she put about myself and my daughter, I have personally sentenced people for child abuse.
Right.
And you know, he yesterday afternoon, that's what he said, and he basically said to her, you know, stop going in front of the cameras and sort yourself out,
And
get your treatment what you need for your mental health illness and your Class A addiction.
Yeah, that's it. Well, let's hope that this interview has cleared up a lot of questions and a lot of gossip as well on Facebook, and let's hope people try and help Melly in the right way instead of directing her in the wrong way.
But he also did tell her to be careful of her friends, what she's choosing.
Yeah, I mean, they did say that that certain people have been making the childhood problems public, weren't helping her whatsoever. But it was her herself that had told the solicitor to say that.
She used that. She used that.
And then the judge is summing up after he'd heard the evidence off the solicitor.
She actually said it was the fact that because she'd come straight out of court and got driven somewhere to do some filming.
She got whisked away to do some filming.
That's right.
And that's, you know.
And then one thing led to another. Yeah. So no, but I hope she adheres to what the outcome was yesterday. And yet again, Mickey Summers wasn't asked to leave the court. It was because his phones were ringing, and the judge said, take it out and don't come back.
Yeah.
There was no trouble caused. He didn't even speak in the courthouse.
Yeah. Right. I think, is there anything else you could maybe think about or that you'd like to mention before we finish?
I'd just ask people, be wary when people are putting certain things up about people who have problems with another person or another person's child, and you're only hearing a bit of the truths. Just because this person's got a lot of followers and a lot of support, it doesn't mean they're always right.
Yeah.
I have noticed a lot of comments. I haven't commented on anything or put any statements up or statuses. A lot of comments, what her supporters have put. We've even been called bastards and things. Yeah. They don't even know us.
On that point, I think a lot of people have been duped by her illness. You know, it's like that is part of her illness that she, you know, tells fibs, makes up stories, bolts bits on,
even the judge commented on that she was a compulsive liar yesterday.
Yeah.
She was a compulsive liar.
Yeah. So yeah, people need to take that into account. That, you know, this is how it is. This is part of her illness, and we should all be aware of that. And that goes for everybody. Do you think there's anything else you could add to that? Yeah.
I totally agree with you.
Yeah.
If you're going to support somebody, make sure it's channeled into the right way to give them support them, and not to self-exploit themselves.
Yeah.
And then they can get lost in it with their own egos.
Great.
So, but thank you very much.
Okay.
You know.
Thank you as well. Much appreciated for your time and that. Right, that's us over and out YouTube. Easy life.
Sorry, bye.
Anybody that I don't know if anybody that gets the same on Facebook, the same, what do they call it, news stories, links come up on your page, you know, in your the news feed sort of thing. But there's so much stuff being put up about the treatment of so-called Hampstead whistleblowers in court. Sabine McNeil, there's another woman, there is Belinda Mackenzie, Angela Power Disney, and I've never seen anything so stupid in my life. I want to make a comment now about this Hampstead case, about the 2 children. I don't agree with the mother putting out footage of the children's police interviews, because they talk so graphically, and the children talking about all this so-called abuse that's happened in real graphic detail. And that is what paedophiles like to get off on, to hear a child talking about, well, I don't need to say it anyway, those sort of things. Now, if they were being abused, if all these hundreds of people at this school was involved and children were being murdered, they was having to drink the blood, and there was all these orgy gangbangs going off with 20 odd parents and kids, and all the teachers was involved and the church in the school, you know, arrests would have been made. There would be a full-on police investigation, like there is with Nottingham, with the abuse we suffered in the children's home, because it was factual. That's why, you know, someone's just got 20 years in prison. You know, the 80s was a terrible period in the institutions in Nottingham, particularly not the foster care, but the institutions. But these people, the mother has made it clear, you're making my problems worse, will you leave me bloody alone? And they are just making footage after footage after footage. And it's now, the Hampstead Chronicles Part 1, Part 2, watch this, they're going to court, they've been charged with witness intimidation, but they're being harassed by the police. You shouldn't be spreading footage like that on the internet. You've been told to keep away. You've not whistle-blown on anything. And some of you people, you jump me when I come out of prison. Belinda Mackenzie turned up in Nottingham, and she goes, hello, I'm Belinda Mackenzie. I says, I was with my friend, and I need to talk to you. And they tried to hijack the Beechwood thing, to try and create some sort of, I don't know, they think they're idiots that just have a laptop or a camera. They jump on anybody that is vulnerable because you don't trust the authorities, and they act like they're guardian angels and professionals, and you know they've got all these contacts and all these police officers that give them their sources, all their information, and you know, and this, that and the other, and they're just a bunch of idiots. They're not credible people. They've not got contacts or anything. They like filming themselves, putting it out, and now they're trying to turn the Hampstead, what them children said, which shouldn't have been put on the internet, they're trying to turn it so it all is about them now. Because the Hampstead case, it got publicity when the kids threw the mum putting that footage out. They're trying to latch onto that to get some sort of profile on the internet, but they're just idiots, you know. I had to get rid of it. I had them like leeches around me, you know. The Beechwood story, the Nottingham, what went off there, it's about the victims. It's not about wannabe idiots claiming that they're, I don't know, journalists or whatever, or I don't know what they are. You know, the victims went to the police, went to the lawyers, did what they did together, the survivors of that abuse, and you know, it's still under investigation. There's people on bail, there'll be more charges. The Hampstead case, if the children were abused, you know, it's about the children. The mother, she's fled the country, she's not come back. You know, it's like everybody's there. Everybody's an insider, everybody's undercover working for the police. No, it's not like that. Oh, there are some good people around, professional people. Rich Allen, UK Column, Luke Collins, Freedom Radio. You know, there is credible people do really hard work that are professional, and I'm just sick of these wannabe idiots jumping on vulnerable people to get themselves attention on the internet, and then because of their behaviour they get arrested, and then they try and twist the story into we're whistleblowers, we're being persecuted for whistleblowing. Well, what are you whistleblowing on? What have you suffered and put into the public domain that is new? Absolutely nothing. You just love seeing your own faces. You know, and I will say what I think. I'm entitled to, because I'm getting messages through Messenger from these people. How can you say that? They just love their own voices, and I'm sick of it. Leave the victims alone. Leave the victims alone. You know, I'm not really bothered about them. I'm just sick of these people, these particular people that are making it all about them now. And they're idiots. You know? And they cause more problem. There are people there that do look after the victims, that aren't employed by the authorities because victims have been failed by them. There are very good people out there to offer support who are sensible, ex-professional careers, good people, you know, that have got a credibility and good reputation behind them. But the people like Sabine McNeil, Belinda McKenzie and Angela Power Disney, you know, they just chat total shit. They filmed themselves for half an hour, and I've never seen anything like it. But I just advise you, I wouldn't listen to a word that comes out their fucking mouth, because it's total bullshit. You know, and then it's, make donations so we can, you know, we've lost everything for doing this. Make donations. It's begging opportunities. They don't do any work. They harass victims. They love the attention. And they think, because there's people that feel, members of the public, feel that the authorities aren't tackling this child abuse issue, that if they come across some people like them, they think, these people are doing something good, I'll try and help them, because the population hates paedophilia. But they're not actually doing anything, you know? They're not doing anything at all. And if you've got, you know, they're not for one moment bothered about those children. It's about the children. Whoever has abused them, whether it was in the family, at the school, or whatever, ever, to put out all this keep shoving out personal information, keep reposting footage of those poor children is wrong. And I'm sick of it. Because I'm a strong character, so I will say it, because there's a lot of other people, they're just trouncing them, they're wrecking their lives even more. Leave victims, adult survivors of child abuse alone. They don't want your help. Angela Power Disney, Sabine McNeil, Belinda McKenzie, you three idiots aren't helping anybody. You just go on and on and on. And the way you talk, it seems a bit dodgy, because you're becoming obsessed with it, and it's as if you're promoting it half the time. I mean, don't forget, we had got people like Jimmy Savile working with children in need and all that sort of shit, promoting things for children, but all along, he was bloody abusing the children. You know? And not everybody are who they appear to be. We have got paedophiles involved with the alternative media. You know? And prats like them, they ruin the credibility of Bill Maloney, Luke Collins, Robert Green, Brian Gerrish, Richie Allen, and people that are sensible, think before they put things out. They're not being arrested. You know, Robert has had his hell, but leave the victims alone. We don't need you. We don't want you. And stop trying to make an image for yourself off the back of our suffering. You're not whistleblowers. So stop. You try putting that word to your name taints the word whistleblower. Surgeons at hospital that speak out against senior management and lose their jobs for doing that, they're a whistleblower. Carol Woods, the senior social worker that's spoken out, the brave lady, she's a whistleblower. You know, I'm no special than any other Beechwood victim, but I had to fight the police for 3 years and go out and find the graves of dead social workers they claim they'd interviewed in different places in the country, and get, you know, and say, how can you say you've interviewed this person? They died 2 years before, you know, I made the statement, and here's a picture of the grave, you know. That's whistleblower when you've got to fight and fight and fight and give up everything. These are just bloody prats. Keep away from us, all of us. The Beechwood victims stand united. The Wales victims, Brynest and Bryn Allen, stand united. If we need help or need support from mainstream or alternative, we know where to look to get that support. You stalk people. Stop stalking victims of abuse for your own personal gain. You're pathetic.
Do you care about children, sir? I love children. Right, but you don't.
Hello.
Brian, Richie here. How are you?
Richie, how you doing, mate?
I'm not bad. Listen, I'm really sorry for not getting in touch with you. I do this show 5-6 days a week, and it's just me, Brian.
Yeah, no, I know, mate.
Cool.
Yeah, no, I know. I watch your show, mate, and I appreciate you're busy. Like, you're constantly going like David is, isn't it, I suppose?
Yeah, but I hate people who say, oh, I'm busy. I'm not like that. I generally get back to people very quickly.
Yeah.
And I'm very interested, mate, obviously, in what you have to say, so genuine apology. In fact, David said to me this morning, I was talking to him brief, and he said, just as an apple, he said, did you get back to Brian? And I said, fuck it, I'll send him an email straight away, so...
Yeah. No, I appreciate you coming back, Rich, and, you know, like, there's a lot of strange things going on in the alternative media from my perspective. Oh, what's that, mate? Rich? Can you hear me, mate? Mate, there's something going on with my line, my end. Can you not hear that? Sorry, Rich. Call me back one more time. Rich? Fucking hell. That is unbelievable. That is unbelievable. That is unbelievable. I'm not going to live with what I know for the rest of my life, sit back and see no one do anything about it. I try to do something about it and I just get taken down by the media. You know, the Prime Minister won't talk to me when I've got a completely legitimate reason to talk to him. He will not talk to me. Now, he knows and I know what is behind that. He knows. David Cameron knew why I was at Downing Street. He knew why I was there, and they even had to spin that and say, you know, Brian Harvey's a nutcase. He's here about money that the government owe him. No, I wasn't. I was there about phone tapping and evidence that I had gathered on my journey with Bill Maloney. He's not what he says he is, and he tried to walk me down a certain path. Because he is in with people like, and I know you probably know this guy, and I know David does, and I know everyone knows everyone. But this Ian Puddick is counterintelligence, MI5.
I've always found him a bit sinister.
He's someone, mate. He's someone, and for the past 3 years, all he's been doing to me is showing me his power and his connections. Michael Portillo, you know, advertising his gin. You know, he's sitting on a UK column with Brian Gerrish. You know, Brian Gerrish and Lou Collins are partnered up. You know, when I went round to Bill Maloney's flat one day, Ben Fellows is supposed to be missing, but Lou Collins can ring him. You know, everyone knows now. I see what's going on in there, and it's ridiculous. You know, that is not a truth movement that is going on over there. And for someone like me to come walking in and see it all, this is just like a repeat of the commercial industry that I've just been in, but in just as dark in another way.
Do you know what, Brian? If I was in the same room as you now, I'd fucking kiss you, mate.
I must point out, because I haven't said this to our listeners, every interview we ever did went on YouTube. The only one ever taken down by YouTube was the one I did with
everyone
Ian
knows everyone.
for community
You know?
standards
This
violation,
alternative media
and
is
they wouldn't give us
rubbish.
any
Everyone
explanation. There was
knows
no
everyone.
profanity in it. Everything Ian said was true. It was all public record. Out of the 1,200 or so videos we've put up, the only one they ever took down was yours. That's a true story. Welcome back, mate, and congratulations on the work you continue to do. You had an interesting dinner last night with a former Scotland Yard detective. Tell us about it.
I did, yeah. Obviously, I won't name names. Had dinner with a former Scotland Yard detective that worked specifically in the paedophile unit. Now, as a general rule, officers only spend 2 years in that department for obvious reasons. But the specific officer, he's now retired, by the way. We met up to talk about, you know, police accountability and all of the rest of it. And I actually didn't know that he'd actually worked in the actual paedophile unit. I knew he'd worked at Scotland Yard and he was a senior officer, but didn't actually know that he'd worked in that office until last night. So I was gobsmacked. So I was asking all the right questions, well, hopefully asking all the right questions. We talked about police accountability in terms of Operation Country Murder.
21st of July, 2017. Yeah, so that's very recent. Who is this Ian Puddick guy?
My first guest was clever enough to get out of the country. A trial was held in her absence and she was sentenced to 2.5 years in jail. That in itself was incredibly corrupt. We could be here all night telling you her story, but let's welcome back to the programme the terrific, the brave, the courageous Andrea Davison. Andrea, welcome back. How are you?
I'm fine, Richie. And how are you? It's lovely to be back on your programme.
It's been a year.
Of course, the subject is not a happy one.
It's not, Andrea, no, and I said at the top of the programme, it's a year almost to the day that you first came on and chatted with us. I know you've been talking to David, and David, you've known David a long time, and he's been writing about you and talking about your story for many years, but you were first on with us a year ago. What were your thoughts when, presumably you've seen the BBC Panorama programme, what were your thoughts watching that programme, or at least hearing what was in it?
Well, initially I couldn't watch it live, but I did get it on YouTube, and I have watched it. Well, I was absolutely horrified, but it was not a surprise. I do know Chris Fay, and I do know some of the survivors, and I've spoken to them also about Panorama's intended programme, because I've had previous experience with Panorama, and they are well known to stitch people up. Cutting and pasting is quite a common process on the cutting room floor. Chris Fay and the survivor, who's known as David, he's a really, really sweet person, very easily influenced, but a very, very sweet person, and had already fallen into the trap of giving an interview to Panorama.
I scribed a birthmark and a first name and scribed the person, and they said the surname and everything, and says that can only be him. Why should I doubt them?
The man who ended up being named was Leon Brittan.
I believed it because I believed that. I don't know. Just believed it. I couldn't say why I believed it. I believed it at the time.
The story continues. Chris Fay and David had already given an interview, as I said. And then in March this year, we had some news from insiders. The insiders told us that Panorama, plus some journalists from the Mail, including MI5 assets like David and Aronovich, were planning to derail the investigations into VIP paedophiles.
I answered the phone and Bill's rung me and he said Andrew is doing a deal with Panorama for about 12 grand and they're going to do a hatchet job on you, me, Chris Fay and fucking John Wedger. Right, that's what I've been rung up and been told.
Never got paid any money. It was Chris Fay that's done the interview with Panorama.
Chris Fay's done an interview with them, yeah?
Yeah, and then the Panorama comes to me and asked if I wanted to say something. I didn't want to do it at first and everything, but then I had done. But your name never came up.
Yeah, but why would they? See, the thing is, Andrew, it's the BBC. Do you know what I mean? Why would anyone do an interview with the BBC when they're...
But they had footage, they had some footage and stuff like that that was filmed in the interview.
Yeah, but that's what was supposed to happen, surely. Do you know what I mean? That was the whole point of filming it, because you want to tell the public what's happened. You know, not that Bill comes along, films it, and then sits in the middle playing God with everyone. We're going to do this, we're going to do that. Do you know what I mean? It's fucking wrong. It's fucking wrong, and I fuck him. I've fallen out with him now. I don't care. I've fallen out with him now, and after I've rung you, I'm ringing him, and I'm going to tell him. I don't want to know whatever it is. He rang me a little while ago. He goes, "Oh, I'm in a car. I'm on the motorway. I can't say where I'm going. I can't say who I'm talking to. I'm fucking sick of it. Who is this bloke?" He's fucking old Bill, I reckon. That's what I reckon. I don't trust him. Why is it that he gets to interview you? Who the fuck is he? Who is he?
I don't know.
Do you know what I mean? And this bloke, you know what I mean? Like, because I'm telling you now, Andrew, right? I've spoken to Matt Baker and Dan Chook and that, right? And I've looked in Tom Watson's face and said to him, "You were the one that funded Andrew." Actually, it was Mick that done it, and then called me over, right? And he's looked me in my face and said yes, right? And then I told him what you told me, right, about the Tom Watkins situation, yeah? And as soon as I said it, he went, "I want to talk to you." Right, so now what I'm thinking is, hang on a minute, Tom, if you fucking funded Andrew, right, who brought you to Tom Watson in the first place for him to know about you to fund you? Who contacted who there? How did that happen, Andrew?
No, I'm not sure. I can't remember. I'm not sure. One of the things I try
That geezer, Bill Maloney, you know what he tried to do to David, yeah? You know, don't you? You know what he tried to do. Now, what? This bloke needs exposing.
How long when Maloney said that?
Oh, this was in January 2014.
Right.
Right, and this was the next day after the interview. So the interview went out on the Sunday, which I think was the 12th of January or something, 2014. So this would have been 2 days before.
Okay.
Like 10th or 11th. And the end bit, I mean, I can play, if you listen, you'll hear the audio.
But what I do want to talk about that came out is David Icke. We are coming to get you. And David Icke, I'll tell you what, I haven't sworn yet, have I?
No.
Well, I'm not going to then.
Surprised.
Well, I'm not going to then. I'll just leave it on that.
It's been a long time.
David Icke, coming to get you. Okay, Brian?
Has he said this publicly?
No, he hasn't said it publicly, and Bill hasn't published this interview.
Well, we'll be straight to court if he did.
Yeah, well, it ain't going to happen anyway, because personally, I think I'm there filming, and this was for me to put out, I think, David.
Yeah, I tell you what, mate, that is so ridiculous.
I know, mate, I know.
Well, this is the thing, that this is so ludicrous and the story is so implausible that either Maloney has done this on purpose or he's a complete frickin' moron. If only one of those two things can be true. This is extraordinary. What do you know about Maloney?
We're liars. We're liars.
Tell me this, Brian. What the hell is Maloney's connection to the police then?
personal gain. You're pathetic.
Disrupt something.
Do you care about children, sir? Do you
I love children.
Right, well,
You don't.
Forwarded that to my man. We thought about what we could and couldn't accomplish here today, and he's going to kind of keep me a little, keep me a little bit paint inside the lines, keep me a little bit on track. But look, you didn't come here to have me talk to you about what we're doing here today. You've come here to have me do what we're here to do today. Zen Gardner, a conspiracy theorist, New Age philosopher of some note on the internet.
You may have seen him and just forgot. If you're thinking, who is he?
Yeah, his name is out there. I think people, when I say the name Zen Gardner, it probably rings a few bells. He's done interviews and he's associated with people like David Icke. He had a radio show, a video show, an interview show on the Conscious Consumer Network, where a lot of people may have seen him as well. And those are both important links that we're going to talk about today. The fact of the matter is this, is that a revelation has come to light regarding Zen Gardner's past. We're not here to damn people or to say that no one can overcome a checkered past, but sometimes the information that's revealed is of such a nature that you really have to take stock, step back, and ask yourselves, what does it say about this individual? What does it say about how we feel about whatever information he brings forward? What does it say about his duty to disclose this information? And what does it say about the people that he associates with? Look, let me kind of give you a thumbnail thesis to kind of get us off the ground. In the conspiracy theory world, there are many tropes, memes, and themes. One very common theme is the theme of underground pedophile cults, children being kidnapped by, the government, children being kidnapped by satanic cults, used and abused, molested, and sexually exploited. Okay. What if I were to tell you that some of those leading lights, some of those champions in the conspiracy theory world, who are the strongest advocates that this is some abomination and some sin that we need to hunt down and that they're dedicated to fighting, what if I were to tell you that these people themselves are associated with and may in fact be considered to be fairly aiding and abetting known child molesters and child abusers? We're going to start with Zen Gardner, and we're going to talk about his associates, but then we're going to branch out a little and talk about a man named Bill Wood and his association with Project Camelot, Carrie Cassidy, Bill Ryan, David Wilcock, okay, as well as, again, coming back to the Conscious Consumer Network, an organization that's constantly going on about sex, pedophile rings, the Hampstead case, what have you. Let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. Let's start at the beginning. Let's start with the children of God. I normally can be a little bit of irreverent, but I don't think it's going to be that type of broadcast because of the information and the stuff that we're talking about. And I also want people to commit to listening to all the information and the facts, follow up on our leads that we lay out for you, and do your own research to make your own decisions. We're not here to do a witch hunt, and we're not here to bash people. We're here to explore issues, to branch it out, to think about it, and to say to ourselves, what does it say to us about our community, how our community is run, and how our level of personal involvement and dedication with these researchers, philosophers, and gurus. Okay, but like I said, let's start at the beginning. Let's start with David Berg. The Children of God was a cult like many new religious movements that started out in the mid-60s, branched out, went international, and went around the world. Different cults have different stories attached to them. And the stories that are attached to the children of God and the facts that have been revealed about the children of God must be discussed firstly and foremost, because it's only then that you will have a context to understand what I'm saying about Zen Gardner and what I think the problem with Zen Gardner is. Okay, the children of God, and what do people say about the children of God? The fact of the matter is that their leader, David Berg, had a very open attitude towards sex from Jump Street. One of the first things that was known about the Children of God was their openness about sexuality and their printing up and using proselytizing materials that specifically advertised that sex was in the offing. One of the first things that was exposed about the Church of God was a practice called flirty fishing, where David Berg would instruct his young female acolytes to go out into the bars, the massage parlors, the streets where prostitution took place, and try to win people for Christ with their bodies and with sexual pleasure. As time went on, the church developed its practices and its teachings regarding open sex and free love. It came to light over the generations and over time that things had gotten kind of weird in that regard. And at the time that David Berg found himself, a man died, a man on the run, a man wanted by multiple international law enforcement agencies. The fact of the matter is that it had come to light that they were encouraging free love between adults and children. That through a series of dictates and edicts called the Moe Papers, David Berg was instructing his followers that sex between adults and children was permissible and to be encouraged. It was called the family in many instances. Adult men were taught to be regarded as uncles by the children. The women were taught to be called auntie or aunt by the children. Like many religious cults, such as the Communist Party, the system was developed, and Scientology, a system was developed where people and parents would see their kids very infrequently throughout the day. The kids were put into group houses and homes together, and where they were overseen and looked over by these aunts and uncles. It came to light that these aunts and uncles were frequently sexually molesting and abusing these children. In fact, the matter is that there was a young man born who was adopted by David Berg, a kid who was nicknamed DeVito. There was a book, kind of like a mini Bible, that was prepared about DeVito, where pictures were taken of this young child having sexual relations with adults as well as other children. One of the leading reasons that the Children of God came to fame was in the early 2000s, this young man, David, emotionally distraught over years of having forced sexual relations with his own mother, went crazy with a gun, tried to hunt down his former molesters, and ended up killing himself in a hail of gunfire. It was then brought to light, and several documentary films were made. The church became an emblem for all the things bad that can happen in a cult or new religious movement. We now turn to Zen Gardner. Zen Gardner, whose real name is Don Ferguson, to the best of my knowledge, came to light recently with confessions on his own web channel. In an article entitled My Missing Years, he laid out a kind of self-serving argument regarding his confessions about involvement with this organization. It should be noted that he joined at 22 and was a member for, by his admission, 27 years. That leaves him exiting at the age of 49. Anyone who's seen current pictures of Zen Gardner can make their own assessments about the timeline and when he actually ceased involvement, and whether or not at the time that he ceased involvement we think that he was morally culpable or should have been charged with full knowledge of what was going on. It should be noted for the record, for clarity of the record, that Zen Gardner has said that he was aware of the abuse but did not participate. You know, folks, it's one thing, and I'll tell you this right off the bat, it's one thing if you tell me that you were involved in an organization and the crimes that you may or may not have been culpable with were drug running or maybe prostitution. But child molestation, and make no bones about it. There's no way. It's known that Zen Gardner had raised to a level of leadership with this organization. And I tell you this, upon threat of charges of libel, I tell you, in my opinion, in my educated opinion, having the chance to peruse his own words, as well as emails that were sent back and forth with him between other parties, that there's no way that he can say that he was not aware, that it wasn't a simple case of rumors behind the back scene. We're not talking about this. This is an organization who, from the top, were being instructed and taught that sexual relationships with minors and children was not only permissible, it was God's way. So now we get to Zen Gardner. And the fact of the matter is that you could look at Zen Gardner's recent confession on his website and say, okay, well, now he's finally coming clean.
I mean, all he's really done is confess to being in a leadership position.
Yeah, that's the fact of the matter. He's only confessed to being in leadership, and he still denies that he had any real, involvement in the abuse.
He says he can't stop it.
Yeah, well, of course, yeah. But then, of course, if you can't stop it, you just get the fuck out of town. What's stopping you from leaving and telling the authorities, okay? He was in a leadership position, folks. There's no way that he can deny that. And there's no way that he can deny the fact that when he became quote-unquote Zen Gardner and started his own website, started his own publishing house, started making contacts with individuals like David Icke, started making contact with individuals like you at home on Facebook, via your email accounts, via asking you for PayPal donations, that he could have disclosed to you, oh, and by the way, you know what? You should know this about me. I was involved in this organization that systematically abused and molested little kids. And it was a horror show, folks. Go back to the YouTube. The documentaries are there. There's documentaries on Netflix. Look at the information and look at the facts about this organization. Ask yourself if anyone could possibly be involved in a leadership position and say, oh, gee, I was aware that something was going on, but I was powerless to stop it. Or, oh, gee, I knew that something was going on, but what could I do?
He was in Brazil, I believe.
It was in Brazil, was the hotbed of some of the most heinous activity. And of course, well, why does a cult organization bring their white followers who don't speak Portuguese to a place like Brazil? Well, then it is difficult to leave, but it's not difficult for a guy like Zen Gardner to leave. I'm sorry. That's my opinion.
Now, he
you
claims
can do your own
that
research.
Because of most of the, these cults, they get you, they separate you from your kids, they separate you from your family. So he may not even know where his kids were, and this is what he's claiming.
Right.
That's why he couldn't just pick up and leave. It wasn't as simple as grabbing your bags and going.
Right.
He says he had to go, he couldn't gather his whole family, but why not just leave just himself and get the kids out later?
There you go. There's all sorts of things that he could or could not have done. But the fact of the matter is this: is that his website has been going on for between 6 and 8 years. Okay, so this guy's been around for a while. And then here's the other thing that we're going to say: you can look at the chronology of his confession on his channel and know this. It's one thing when a person comes out and says, folks, there's something you don't know about me. There's something I got to get off my chest. Before anyone says anything, I got to get this off my chest for me and for you. Here's my confession. Bullshit. The fact of the matter is this, is that people have been exposing him, and he was outed and exposed. There's an individual who runs a blog, a person who goes by the nom de plume of the Philosopher's Stone, who printed emails from Zen Gardner, Don Ferguson, back and forth, and confronted him via email. Gave Don Ferguson an opportunity to come clean and basically abandon the whole Zen Gardner persona and abandon all pursuits within the alternative community world. Zen Gardner chose instead to have a self-serving confession go out on his own website, and then Philosopher's Stone went ahead and published the emails, which are damning. And let me just go through some of the arguments that Zen Gardner has said that makes it so abhorrent and abominable, kind of what he's done. When Zen Gardner was confronted, he emailed back to this individual and said, what about basically making the implication that people have to be whistleblowers, and sometimes that's a difficult thing to do or involves duplicity at its very heart or its nature. He brings up the case of Mark Passio and seems to equate Mark Passio with being a former Satanist or witch with him being a former member of this organization. Was it the Church of the Family or the Church of God? No, that's a false equivalency. That's a false equivalency. Being a member of a Levain Satanist organization or having, kind of satanic philosophies in your background is not the equivalent of being in a leadership position in an organization that systematically molested and abused children. systematically abused children. It's impossible. The fact of the matter is that Zen Gardner, I believe that the facts show that if a person doesn't make a confession until they're outed, that confession is tainted. Maybe or maybe not, Zen Gardner, Don Ferguson, would have chosen in the future at some point to make his own disclosure. But whenever a person makes a disclosure after their hand has been forced, there's no escaping that simple historical event and that simple factual matter, that his hand was forced. And I dare say that it allows me to draw the conclusion, personal opinion, you can draw your own, that but for the fact that his hand was forced, Zen Gardner would have never said anything. Okay. Let's talk about Zen Gardner's associations. Am I ready to move on to Zen Gardner's associations? Is there anything I've missed, or have I done enough? Okay.
Yeah.
People in the chat, I'm good. I'm taking moments to look at the chat. I hope it doesn't break things up too much.
No, chat, I haven't been watching chat too much either.
Okay. Okay. So there we go.
We have Jaded Sofa says, yes, that's why this must be approached logically and the facts be assessed.
Addressed. Okay, so there you go. So here we are now. Now, what am I talking about and about his associations and what the Zen Gardner situation means for the larger community at whole? Well, let me start here. Number one, first, we've already talked in brief and in passing Zen Gardner's personal relationship with people that he speaks to online. As a YouTube content creator, as a website owner and forum runner, as a person who does conferences, I believe, in public speaking engagements, as a person who engages and makes connections with other people in the community. A lot of people know the Zen Gardner story first kind of popped in many real ways because another website went forward and said, hey, what about his connection to David Icke? And it's a pertinent connection because David Icke, as many people will know, makes it as a hallmark or a tentpole of his whole operation, the protection of children against these so-called satanic molestation cults, the government agencies that are kidnapping kids, and all the kids that are disappearing off the streets in the years. We also know that David Icke made a very big deal about the Jimmy Savile situation. Well, I think that it's important because we are supposed to be taught, or people in the David Icke community believe that David Icke is a trusted researcher, that the research that he does is legitimate, that the research he does is thorough, that he goes in with discernment, that magic watchword that means nothing, and that he investigates everything to an ultimate conclusion, getting at the supposed truth. But the fact of the matter is this: while they are pitching against windmills, talking about these underground satanic organizations like the family actually are historical events. They actually exist. The child abuse that occurs within these organizations is palpable and tantamount, not only to law enforcement, to legitimate news media and journalists, but should be known and obvious to someone of the caliber of David Icke, or the supposed caliber of David Icke. How is David Icke associating with Zen Gardner and not doing his own research to say, hey, who's this bloke that I'm vetting by default by appearing on his channel or by inviting him to appear on places like the People's Voice or on his own forums and websites? People can make their own conclusions as to the culpability of associates of Zen Gardner. People can draw their own conclusions about whether or not I'm being fair or unfair to the likes of David Icke or the Conscious Consumer Network, an organization that hosted Zen Gardner's channel, another organization that makes it as part of their motto or their axiom, their desire to break apart and destroy these underground sex rings. So they're not even vetting these people. The point is this, and here's kind of, we're going to constantly keep on kind of coming back in a roundabout fashion to my central thesis. You cannot just trust these people. You have to do your own research. You have to get down to the nitty-gritty, and you sure as shit can't start getting personally involved or feeling some sort of personal love connection to these organizations. How many times have you tuned into David Icke and have people see interviews with him on the street outside of the Bilderberg group, or guys like Alex Jones being patted on the back and people saying, "You're a truth warrior. You're doing it for us, David. You're walking in the light." How many times have I said something about one of these individuals that said, I have a problem with this event, this event, this event, this teaching, or this philosophy, or this line of research, and have people blast me in the comment section because David Icke is walking in the light. David Icke is a palpably fallible human being who I dare say is not a journalist. You wouldn't fall this much in love with a journalist. Okay? The lionization of a journalist is the lionization beyond that is a distraction from their function, and their function is to be a conduit of information. You can't fall in love. And Zen Gardner, I dare say, almost became like a cult leader. He has his own forum. He has his own acolytes. He has people who believe in what he has to say. I'm not here to judge you if you're a flat earther, but I'm here to tell you that just because someone talks about the flat earth doesn't mean that you should fall in love with them. If you meet them personally and you fall in love with them, that's fine. Let's talk about the people in the alternative community who have said amazing things about Zen Gardner. And you'll see the issue that I have and why I think it's pertinent and important to discuss these individuals because, hey, here's the accusation. These people are involved in a business model. And the business model is, how do we generate more subs? How do we generate more likes? How do we get more people coming out to the conference? And how do we get to these various things? Number one, David Icke was the first to come out and basically said that anyone trying to associate him with Zen Gardner, okay, was basically a muckraker, okay? How about this, David Icke, line of truth? Why don't you start with what happened with your knowledge or your information about the Children of God, the Children of God Church, the Family Church, and talk about how you think or what your research has led you to know or believe about them. How about a statement of personal sympathy or philosophy? Let's talk about that. No, he goes out swinging, basically saying that the accusation that he was linked to Zen Gardner was an impossible one to believe. But the fact of the matter is that his connection to Zen Gardner is an established fact. Let's talk about some people.
Yeah, he actually states that that the news agency that went after him over this was filling out some kind of vendetta, saying that the editor for that news group was actually a former employee of DavidIcke.com.
Right.
He was trying to assess that that's what.
Of course, because it couldn't possibly be anything else.
Yeah.
Here we go. Here's David Icke's words himself. Zen Gardner's book is a welcome contribution to a gathering challenge to the matrix of deceit. One more time, from the top, folks. Zen Gardner's book is a welcome contribution to a gathering challenge to the matrix of deceit, illusion, and programmed perception. Lies got us into this mess. Only truth can get us out of it. David Icke, talking about Zen Gardner's book, You Are the Awakening. Folks, meet the new boss, same as the old boss. Moving on. Where do I get this other thing? All right, this other thing. And then also John Rappaport got involved. Let me find that. Motherfucker. Apologize, folks. And of course, by the way, David Berg, who was the leader of the family, the man who created these rules regarding the lionization of the sexual molestation of children, was also a rabid anti-Semite. Guess what Zen Gardner's been accused of many times? Anti-Semitism. Guess who else he associates with? Ole Damagard. Again, another known famous anti-Semite. Here we go. John Rappaport. Zen Gardner does an adventurous thing and a right thing with an exciting thing. He knocks down the wall between consciousness and the world without diminishing the heights to which consciousness can rise. Think about that and read what he writes, because he is also updating original Zen to make it relevant to today and tomorrow. He shreds the illusionary barrier between wisdom in the past and life as it is in this minute. Well, that's an amazing blurb. And that's the fact of the matter, folks, is that this is a business. These people sell books, they sell tickets, they sell documentary movies, and that's what it's all about. And everybody is for sale. You know, I'll tell you something, not to get too far off the path, but let me talk about another cult for a minute, the Hare Krishna organization, the International Society of Krishna Consciousness. One of the crazy things that happened in the International Society of Krishna Consciousness was there was a young devotee by the name of Salokanath Das. And Saloka Nadasa discovered that after the death of the founder of the International Society of Krishna Consciousness, Srila Prabhupada, the 11 gurus that he had appointed to take his place and basically bring the organization to the next step had gone crazy with illicit drug use, illicit sex, gambling, money laundering, and all sorts of variety of criminal problems, including the molestation of children, specifically by a man by the name of Ken Ham, who was the leader of the famous commune in New Vrindavan, also called the Palace of Gold. Saloka Nadas was murdered. One of the unindicted co-conspirators in that murder was a man by the name of Radhanath Swami. Well, guess who wrote a blurb for Radhanath Swami's autobiography? None other than Ram Das. A glowing review, a puff review. Guess who else once famously talked with Radhanath Swami at NYU? A man you probably are familiar with, a professor of philosophy and law by the name of Cornel West. No one is doing the investigation and vetting of these people. It's all people patting each other on the back, and who ends up the victim? You end up the victim. You end up buying the book, you end up donating to the PayPal account, thinking that you're doing good, that you're doing a laudable good, that you're achieving some sort of goal, that you're trying to defeat the matrix. There could be nothing more matrixy and programmed than an individual who comes out of the Church of God, then sets up and all of a sudden goes from being an alternative free love Christian to all of a sudden now saying that he's a Zen Gardner. The fuck that means. And then puffs that out to the masses for consumption and buying. The the Conscious Consumer Network. Another great organization that obviously does so much to vet people. Now, folks, we're going to move on a little bit because I don't want to spend too much time and I don't want to get repetitive. I think you know what I'm talking about. I think you know what I've laid out so far. What we're going to do now is kind of move on, and we're going to talk a little bit about another instance where this sort of thing happens and can happen. Before we do, let me do it in this step. The Consumer Conscious Network that many people know about, an alternative media outlet, an internet TV channel, and a YouTube content creator, a collective organization that are trying again to defeat and fight the Matrix. Well, look, the fact of the matter is that Zen Gardner was a member of their community. The fact of the matter is that Zen Gardner's interview show, he hosted a show on that network. So what does that say about the vetting that's done at that organization? Okay? The point is, people, there is no one awake at the wheel to protect you from disinformation. You have to protect yourself. And step number one is saying to yourself, I'm going to listen to this information objectively. I'm going to take it in. I'm not going to emotionally react to it. I'm going to try and do what research my time allows me, and I'm going to try to understand it for what it is. I'm not going to try to become emotionally attached or involved with the people that are bringing it to me, because that's a false narrative. In fact, that is a cult narrative. When you start saying to yourself that you can take things on faith, stop judging them independently, and trust an organization because they've been so right in the past, but you don't know they've been right in the past because all they've given to you is information. Then this guy was in a leadership position. Fuck that bullshit. And how about this, Zen Gardner? You're meeting people like David Icke. You're reading his pamphlets and his books. You know and must know that this guy's a strong advocate against child molestation and the systematic child abuse of children. What are you doing to David Icke?
Yeah.
That you're not risking his whole reputation? You're not playing fast and loose with him? Everything that is built up, that you have to know, you could be bringing down with the stroke of a discovery, with one fucking wrong email, one fucking kid recognizes you from the fucking block party, and all of a sudden David Icke is culpable. Or how about the Consciousness Consumer Network? What about the work that they did trying to build up their organization? The hubris and the duplicity and the lies. But no one can tell them apart, folks. David Icke is not gifted with the second sight. at least they have one, the supposed psychic can't tell that these people are, but they can remote view Mars, but they can't point out the fact that this guy's a fucking pedophile. It's disgusting. And it happened in the past, and no one did anything about it. And you could have done something about it, community. All you needed to do, it's easy to watch a YouTube video. Harder to do research. But you all think that you got your PhDs in watching the boob tube. You sit there, and it's apt that it's called the Conscious Consumer Network, because you call yourself conscious, and it's just like, oh, the people that go to Trader Joe's, like that's not a fucking, like that's some sort of fucking amazing different organization, or that Starbucks is different than Dunkin' Donuts. The marketing agents know it. Just throw a new slap of paint on it. This is the hippy dippy option. Fruitopia, the wonderful fruit drink brought to you by Pepsi Cola, the people that are poisoning the South American seas. And you just buy it. And because it's harder to do the research, but it's easy to fall in love with Kerry Cassidy and Bill Ryan and say, these guys are freedom fighters, and we're part of the organization looking for the truth, and yada, yada, sis, boom, bah. And buy a book, and buy some candles, and smudge, and understand that there's child molesters telling you to buy a candle, read a book, and smudge. It's sickening. Okay? You know, Nazis were really into Buddhist philosophy and Hinduism. They were. Adolf Hitler was a vegetarian. He was. And an animal lover. The things that people take for verification are laughable. And it's unacceptable. And it shouldn't be done. And it shouldn't happen. But it does all the time. And the laudable likes of David Icke when all this was revealed. Oh, wait, what? There was something I was going to do about David Icke. Oh, let's talk about the Jimmy Savile fucking situation. Now, this is old news, and I'm not telling you anything new, but as long as we're here, we might as well.
Savile 2.0 is what this is, essentially.
This is Jimmy Savile 2.0. Remember Jimmy Savile? Jimmy Savile came out and was exposed at the time that he died. All of a sudden, the people at the BBC kind of breathed a sigh of relief and said, oh, my God, he's dead? Thank God. Now we can start telling you the truth about this guy. Yeah. Oh, he was molesting kids left, right, and center. Jimmy Savile hosted a show called Jimmy'll Fix It, where this lovable BBC presenter who's like, he's a weird-looking guy. I have no idea how England looked at this guy and said, this is a guy that we should allow around kids. Honestly, Google Jimmy Savile and ask yourself if, like, you'd leave the grocery store if this guy walked in. I don't know. I guess the talent pool that they had at the BBC at the time or whatever. So it comes to light that Jimmy Savile had been systematically abusing children throughout the entire duration of the time that he was at the BBC. In fact, behind the scenes, the people, the producers, the cast, and the directors of the show, Jimmy'll Fix It, as well as the BBC that put it on the air, had a secret little code name for the show called Jimmy Will Fuck It.
Oh, man. I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah. I was on a podcast recently with a man who's from over across the pond who said that his detective father forbade him from writing into the show. It was an open secret. Everybody knew that there was something rotten in the state of Denmark, okay? Or South Wales, where the fuck that Jimmy Savile was doing his rambunctious evil behavior, procuring young children for the likes of the rock stars that would come by Top of the Pops or the old gray whistle test. So David Icke comes out and starts saying things like, I've been on about this for years. I've been telling people, because remember, David Icke, before he came to fame, before David Icke was the reptilian, now he's the Archon researcher, because he's read, John Lamb Lash. But before that, he was the reptilian researcher. Before he was the reptilian researcher, folks, he was the guy who appeared on the BBC telling people that he was the Son of God, that he was Jesus. Hey, listen, okay, you're the Son of God, you're Jesus, I guess that's fine. David Icke had been a sports presenter of the BBC for years. At a time when everyone who had worked at the BBC was testifying that everybody that was there at the BBC at that time knew that Jimmy Savile was a fucking freak, that he was a child molester, a child abuser, and was having sex with young girls. David Icke then says, when Jimmy Savile dies, he said, I've been telling people this for years. I've been telling people this for years. Bullshit. Bullshit. Hold on.
I know I was surprised to come in and find out this stuff today. People send me a message. Said, you cannot believe this stuff happening. I think tomorrow we will see some coverage on this issue. We'll see. Tomorrow when the news cycle begins, I think there will be some of the alt websites are going to be catching on to this.
You're not going to tell me that C.W. Chanter doesn't know a lot about David Icke and David Icke's research and what he's been saying. Even before there was Children of the Matrix, there was the David Icke to the Global Conspiracy. Handy little index. Sabbath, Saddam Hussein, Sagan, St. Paul's Cathedral. Saturday, Saturn, F. Topper Saucy, John Scarlett. What am I looking for, folks? Savile. What's not here?
No Jimmy Savile?
No Jimmy Savile. What you know? But he's been telling this shit for years, David Icke. Okay, well, this came out right around Tales of the Time Loop. Came out right around the time of the September 11th bombings. That's what this one was all about. In early 2003. Okay, well, let's give him another shot. Savile. Michael Savage. No. If I'm lying, I'm dying.
No Jimmy Savile?
Joseph Smith, Stuart Dynasty. No Jimmy Savile.
Well, maybe this whole thing will teach people to just vet who you're interviewing.
Human race, get off your knees.
I mean, a driver's license should be enough.
Yeah, right. How about that? Let's see. Let's give one more shot here. This is a later one. This is human race, get off your knees. Maybe. Nope. No. No, folks, sorry. But you know what? Hold on one second. Tortured perchance, and I apologize for that, The Perception Deception. Published 2013. After the death of Jimmy Savile. And what do you know? Jimmy Savile, 282 to 93, 298, 299, 300, 308, 310 and 11, 428, 600. He's been telling us this for shit for years. No, he didn't. But he's been doing so much research. He does so much research now he can fill up a whole section of perception deception with the likes of Jimmy Savile. But he had no idea before then. Even when I tell you that I was on a podcast with a grown-ass man who was a child, was told by his detective father, don't write into the BBC, don't write into Jimmy Savile, even though the people that were around at the time of Jimmy Savile and whose career absolutely cross-meshed in time with the career of David Icke when he was a sports presenter at the BBC. And how come David Icke never said shit when he was at the BBC? He's the line of light. Ridiculous. Ridiculous. And where's the mention of the children of God in this book? But Zen Gardner gets a great write raving review. Well, I guess you can write, great books and still be a totally morally bankrupt, abhorrent individual. I don't care, folks. Like I said, if the accusation is drug use or drug abuse or alcoholism, okay, hey. If the accusation is drug running or organized gambling, maybe, okay. But I dare say that there's certain crimes that are so abhorrent to us as people that not that people should not be able to do their time and move on with their lives, but certainly you'd expect them to disclose who they were and who their backgrounds were, and was. But there's no disclosure. And what's the point of disclosure? What's the need of disclosure? And these people are such love and light individuals. Like I said, look at David Icke's reaction to someone saying, oh, by the way, Zen Gardner was involved in the Children of God. Does he say, I will no longer associate with that individual, or that individual must confess his sins to source, or whatever the fuck you do?
He didn't even know him. He's like,
he claims he didn't even fucking know him, which is a load of shit.
I think because he didn't meet him in person, and he clarified.
Yeah, well, no one meets anybody in person anymore.
Hey, that excuse is not 2016 approved.
No, I don't think so. Now, look, I don't mean to say that David Icke needs to vet the entire life story of everyone he appears on an interview with. You wouldn't be able to function in society if we had that level of moral interculpability. But at the time that the revelation is made, the response is telling. Just like the response is telling from Zen Gardner when it's exposed that he was involved with the Children of God, and then he says, okay, yeah, I was involved. I was there for 27 fucking years in a leadership position. But I never participated in abuse. I have to confess, I knew what was going on. Well, that's some fucking half-assed confession. No offense. Not to get repetitive, but that bears repeating. That is a fucking lame excuse. Oh, I was at Scientology at the top of the pyramid, all the way to clear. Lisa McPherson? Bull fucking shit that you didn't know, that you shouldn't have done something. Like I said, there's certain crimes that you have to be, okay, fine, cults, organizations, hard to leave, hard to get involved. When they start throwing out the poison or start giving out the poison Kool-Aid to the kids, when they start organized molestation of children, there's no excuse that you had something better to do or you were just too wrapped up in it. I don't care what you say. That's my personal opinion. That's my truth. Whether it resonates with you or not, I'm telling you what I believe about things. What do you believe? That's a question you have to ask yourselves. What do you think happened and what do you think went wrong, and do you think it's excusable at all?
Okay, I'm just going to answer the question you asked me about Brian Harris. I'll explain if you want. If you really want the explanation, I will tell you. But you have to listen to it, okay?
No problem, Will.
Okay, here we go. So I met Brian in 2013, at Bilderberg. But I didn't really meet Brian. Who I met was Lou Collins. And Lou Collins and I met because Lou Collins' boyfriend used to live in a flat with me in South Devon when I was about 17 years old, when I lived with my brother. So when I met Lou Collins, because I'm from the Southwest as well, and she's from the Southwest, they're all from the Southwest, that is the connection with me and UK Columns, that we're all from the Southwest.
Say about my next guest. I met my next guest in 2013 in June. Previous to that, I'd seen a video of him on YouTube where he visited the Grove prior to the famous Bilderberg meeting in Watford, and we've been friends ever since. His name is Sam the Blogger. Most people have known him, S. Williamson's on YouTube, and when I spoke to him last night, because I'm a bit worried, are people actually going to know who I am? He's on the line right now, so let's bring him in now. Hello.
Hello.
Hello, you. Good morning.
All right.
How are you?
I think you summed up perfectly just how confusing I am as just a general audience. Somebody who knows me very well still doesn't know how to do the name of my YouTube channel.
I know, sorry. So come on, for the benefit of the listeners, what's the correct Sam Williams?
It's S William ism ISM on the end. It's really bad.
Yeah.
But there we go.
Can we not change it to Sam the Blogger? Because that is what you are known by.
You coined Sam the Blogger. It's a really good name. Somebody had it already. That's a guy who looks after parrots or something.
Oh really?
So if you Sam the Blogger, it's wow, that guy's given up rambling on about conspiracies and now he's left the parrots. So there we go.
Tell us a brief thing about you before we get into our look at the review of 2016.
I do YouTube, I don't know what else to say. If you go on my Twitter feed, I think it says London vlogger or something.
Okay.
Alternative London vlogger.
That's it.
It's on the ground in the bell of the beast. That's me just trying to create something snappy so people are interested. Yeah.
But it was the Bilderberg thing that really put you out there, wasn't it, prior to Bilderberg?
So I went along to the Royal Courts of Justice to attend the most recent case. And when I arrived, I bumped into one of the chief campaigners, Belinda Mackenzie, and I asked her what on earth was going on. But luckily, as I left, I managed to bump into Brian Garish, the man who started the UK Column newspaper, and I asked him to clarify.
So Brian, tell us what happened in there today.
Well, it's very
Stay away from Wikipedia.
Well, Wikipedia can be useful, but I've just had a joke with you a little bit earlier on today. If you want a big joke, go and see what Wikipedia says about me.
Okay, Brian, thank you very much.
So, Brian Garish there.
Into waiting rooms. Now, of course, in that these things work on facial analysis, the idea of transferring them to facial recognition literally is like a software upgrade. So
we can make that question number 2 if you want.
Okay, so I'll ask you a question. What's Luke Collins doing now? Because I know the answer. See if you know.
What doing now?
Yeah, what are you doing now?
You tell me, you know.
She's got an office job for a magazine in South Devon to look after her children, and she has turned her back on UK Column. She talks to UK Column as much as I talk to UK Column.
Because a lot of them been exposed.
Never speak to them. Okay, then. So let me give you
what attracted you to the competition this year?
It's a surprise for me too. Basically, I've got an agent called Mission Control, and I think that's kind of where I'm most known for at the moment. So the BBC run Mission Control, and they was looking for artists to put forward for the Eurovision. It was Mission Control after they've got a different act chasing on. They've got loads of them, and they put my name forward, and they said they were interested. They said there's a lot of songs, and they said they've got a song. I mean, how better can you do? You come back from Best 4 or coming through the Eurovision. I don't know how long, obviously I'd like to win it. It'd be fantastic to do something positive and represent the UK rather than, have a bad time in the papers and stuff. Yeah, fantastic, mate. I just want to turn it around. I want to turn my life around. I have done, so far, and this now is just a cherry on the cake. It's fantastic, mate. It's brilliant. I'm flattered, mate. It's bit. And just
obviously the last 10 years it hasn't been great.
No, it's been great.
What are you going to do if it's kind of one? Do you see that you could be a is that something that's just blown your mind?
I don't know, man. I've been told I've been killed so many times.
The world is a vampire sent to drain secret destroyers.
Mark Bill.
Hello, mate.
This is the guy who introduced me to you, sir.
Nice to meet you.
Got a good name, Bill. That's my name.
What do you want to do, Bill? I've been waiting for 20 years.
I've been since I've been here. I've been talking to some of your supporters, your fans, and really asking them. I've been asking them how they felt when they went in and how they feel when they come out. So when they go in, they're feeling excited and looking forward to it. When they're coming out, they're feeling empowered. Now, you know what I'm interested in, David? I'm interested in the institutional child abuse, really, and as you were saying in your talk, with the satanic rituals and the absolute horrors that are going with it. Now, you are one of the very few, let's say, can I call you celebrities?
Oh God,
don't get the with me.
No.
But you know what I mean.
Oh God.
But you are speaking up.
Yeah.
You're speaking up in a very strong way, you know, and it's my intention to put sort of your word across as you are talking about child abuse, especially the institutional, the satanic, etc., etc., to victims and survivors.
Right.
So you seem to like you're in that field now, and people are very interested in your opinions on it, etc. So, as you know, I'm a victim myself. So you're talking to a victim, and I think that people do appreciate that. And you did come to the child abuse rally, and you did speak, and we did invite 650 members of Parliament. We now have had one email.
Oh, they're bloody useless, aren't they?
Exactly, David. So you know what I mean. So, what would you say to sort of survivors that are still sitting in the corners, self-medicating on drugs or whiskey, and looking for people to fight their fight, or what would you say to motivate them, David?
Well, the thing is that you can acquiesce and see yourself as a victim, and I do completely understand why people would see that, because some of the horrors that have been described to me just are beyond the imagination. But if we're going to bring an end to this, then those who have knowledge, those who have information and experience of this, need to do what they can to speak out, because come forward and you know, when you've been through the horrors that they've been through, how much worse can it get? Speaking out about it. So people call you crazy or whatever. So what? When you've been through what you've been through, what the hell is that? And you see, I'm not a victim of child abuse, so therefore I've got my understanding.
Yeah, but you have empathy, David, don't you? But that's what you talk a lot about, empathy. You know, people with lack of empathy in the show. You know, and I wholeheartedly agree with you there. How do we get that empathy in the people?
But the thing is that I have. Yeah, God, I'm still sweating. It's 9 hours in that.
You've been working on it.
But I have got my understanding of what's going on from people who've experienced it, who told me the stories all over the world. And I'm now putting that information out and doing what I can, because I have the understanding, thanks to the people who've experienced it, who've given me that information. So the more people say, okay, I'm not a victim. They've abused me, they've done this to me, they've treated me horrifically, but I ain't having it. I ain't going to be a victim. I ain't going to lie down. I'm going to step out and I'm going to speak my truth. And how people receive it is up to them. But I'm going to put this information into the public arena. And the more people that do, the more the common themes emerge of what's happening to people, the more credible the story becomes. Because, you know, when people start to talk to me now about what's happened to them, I know what's coming. And if I'm talking to someone in America, I know what's coming. When I'm talking to someone in Australia, I know what's coming. South Africa, I know what's coming.
It's really quite...
Because it's the blueprint of the way they do it. Yeah. The way they abuse people, the way they satanically abuse people, the paedophile rings and all the rest of it. And
the 500,000 children that were taken out to Australia to feed the British Empire.
Exactly.
You know?
That's nothing to do with paedophilia, is it? Yeah. I mean, what? Yeah. And the thing is that the more people speak out, the greater the body of information becomes, the more credible the fact that this is going on becomes. And you know, I would say to people, I completely understand why you just want it to go away and you want to, you know, escape from your trauma through various means. But if you take a deep breath and you say, how can I stop this happening to other people? Then you can stand up and speak out, and the body of information of what's happening gets greater. And the more the common themes emerge, and it's not difficult for common themes to emerge, because all these people have got to do is speak their truth, and the common themes emerge, because it's unbelievable how the blueprint unfolds. And therefore, we have an expanding body of experience and information which becomes undeniable in the end. You know, when one person said this happened to me, oh yeah, with 2, 3, 4, hundreds, thousands, oh my God, what's going on here? This is what we need, and
because it comes back in later life, you know, like a lot of victims or survivors, whatever you want to call them, they will tell you that it's normally like as you get older, David, you become more aware of horrors. It's like if you think of a horror when you're a kid, it's not the same as when you think of a horror as an adult. You know what I mean? Like as a kid, you might be frightened by Snow White. As an adult, you're not. Yeah. So as they reach adulthood, where their minds are becoming more progressive, if you like, and more daring, then they go back to the real horrors that happened to them when they really got fucked and they got abused, etc., etc. That is why they wind up in institutions, etc., and sectioned and all sorts of things. Especially, you know.
But you know, people have got a choice. They can allow, to use a phrase, the bastards to get them down, or they can say, I'm not having this, I'm not being a victim, and I'm going to tell my truth. And the more people that do that, I mean, we only know what is happening in terms of satanic ritual abuse and paedophilia on the scale of it is, and how it is involving famous people in politics and business and entertainment. We only know that because the victims have spoken out.
Unfortunately, those important people have become our weapons and our targets.
Yeah, well,
that's what we can do. That's who I'm trying to hit, David. I don't see the point in getting Joe Bloggs around the corner or the dustman or so and so and so, because people have this misconception of paedophiles as being dirty old men in raincoats, and they're not, as you know, David.
They're famous politicians, they're prime ministers, they're presidents, they're
geniuses. Some of them.
They are, they are Secretary Generals of NATO. They are Secretaries of State for Defence, and the ratio, because of things I've been talking about today, the ratio of paedophiles and Satanists to the upper echelons, bravely called the upper echelons of society, is massive compared with the general population. And if we can get people who've had abuse from these people to speak out, the more and more people keep naming the same people and talking about the experiences with these, the more we undermine the rings, and the more that people see the credibility in this. What he's naming him, she's naming him, he's naming him, and so it's like when I go around America, I'm naming Father George Bush as a paedophile and child killer all the time, wherever I can.
So just bear that in mind, guys, before you start hating. I'm not going to respond to people in the way that the haters would want me to. So that's right, but I'm seeing it. It's a question of that film, They Live. Remember the 80s cult movie? With, oh Jesus, what's he called? Rowdy Roddy Piper, who, rest in peace, has passed on. But one thing that come out of that video, one thing was where he put the sunglasses on, if anyone had seen it, and he was walking around the town mesmerised, seeing the world as it should be, rather than the facade veil that they're placing over you. He walks into a supermarket, a shop of some description, and as he's walking round, he's starting to see the people for what they are. Yeah? The people that are nefarious, that are against the system. Excuse me. So, one thing that happened when he clocked this one individual, which was a lady, I'll never forget it. The lady had this technological watch. He could see her as a skeleton, because with these glasses you can see more than just a human being. You see their spirit, in a sense. I'm kind of... But he's seen her for who she was. She looked at him and she could see him for who he was. And she noticed that he was one that could see them. So the first thing she done was got on her phone, which she could speak into, and said, I've got one who can see. So that's me. You can say all the comments you want, you can be as negative as you want, it don't really matter. I'll take it on board, it might even piss me off. But the bottom line is, I see you. I see you. I see your mentality. So it's all good. All good. I'm riding this like a wave.
Guys, you've just won eBay's 2017 Business Award winners. And there's this kind of moment of silence for 2 or 3 seconds, then there's this screaming. It's magical.
What it is, have some news for you today. Very interesting and perhaps alarming news for anybody who's followed the case from Hampstead, UK, about satanic ritual abuse from a cult operating in Hampstead, England, involving ritual murder of children, babies, eating of children, allegedly from 2 children, Elisa and Gabriel, who were the children of a Ricky Dearman. And if you were watching that clip and you're familiar with Ricky Dearman, then you just saw what appears to be very much Ricky Dearman, and unfortunately, it appears to be his 2 children, Elisa and Gabriel. eBay commercial allegedly about business owners who got an award from eBay. It appears that that is not the case, and they actually just hired actors to play the role, since Ricky Dearman hasn't won any business awards. Let me show you the picture of Ricky Dearman here with the 2 children he appears in the ad with. I believe at this point that those are his 2 actual children, Elisa on the left and Gabriel right to her right. I'm going to show you, just to say that I believe that is Ricky Dearman, I'll show you as a review a little bit of his video with the BBC. This video was called "Father Falsely Accused of Being a Satanic Cult Pedophile Ringleader," with Victoria Derbyshire, who gives him a softball interview. And obviously the title indicates that they totally believe him, in a video where to most sensible people it appears that he is acting. And if you'd seen the videos of his children speaking to the police on record about what happened, you find their stories quite credible. But once again, you'll have to review those videos if you're not familiar. It'll be an education in what appears to be a very real case of satanic cult ritual abuse.
They said I'm the leader of a satanic sex cult pedophile ring, and there's 100+ involvement in this, including CAFCAS, the police, social services, the school, and I'm the leader of this.
It appears that everything he was accused of is somewhat true. It appears there was a cover-up. It appears that the judge was compromised. There are a lot of things in that case to lead you to believe that what the children said was true. Okay, so this is the guy once again. I can play a little bit of him talking.
Business Award winners. And there's this kind of moment of silence for 2 or 3 seconds.
Okay, you hear what he sounds like. You see the 2 children next to him. Let me show you a few different things.
That's what you try to understand. I'm fed up with being attacked by you both. I'm fed up with it, really. I can't continue to do what I'm doing.
No one's attacking
in the right way.
No one's attacking.
You just now you're going back on something. You're looking for something to argue about. You want to argue.
It's not argument.
I've just lost my brother, Mick. He's just fucking died, bruv. I don't even know how the cunt died.
Listen, you're bringing that into it now, right? We're talking about something on the outside. You can't
see this cunt. I've done him. You go and do him. You go and get a camera. You go and do what I do. If we're going to, if it's going to go like this, let's go now. Let's stop it. No, let's stop it right now. We're going now. Right. Get the cameras. Let's fucking drop it out. Come on. Right.
Right. Let me roll this round.
Take your spliff in it. I told you stuff tonight. I trusted you. You look like you're out your fucking nut already, bruv. You know what I mean? What? Leave the puff alone. Sit there and we'll all talk properly.
We are talking.
I'm not. Every time me and Mick get together, there was a fucking row.
Mate, you look.
There's answers. Just want some answers, Bill.
I just gave you some information.
Yeah,
right?
and I've fucking come and I've helped you, and I've been in this for a year. Right now, you have a bit of fucking respect. I've helped you.
Do that and get out of my fucking place now. Come on, Brian. You apologise to me for what you just said, or I ain't never going to fucking talk to you again.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I'm fucking 100%.
You're really serious?
Yeah.
So I've come into this, I'm now in danger.
Shall we stop the rows now?
You're not in danger.
You are not in danger.
I am.
Who? I'm the cunt in danger.
Are you?
Yeah, I've got a 3-year-old bill around me.
Yeah, and I'm not being...
And I'll pull you up. No, you're not being watched, only by yourself.
Really? Mate, seriously. You've got to sort this attitude out with me, man. I'm trying to help you, dude.
I can't fucking believe it.
You know what I mean? I'm trying to help you, mate.
No, I do think...
I don't understand what you're worried about.
I know that, Mum, but fucking hell.
If I've got a question, I can ask you because you're my mate.
I know, but
you can't ask me to come to this around.
Why are all these people saying it? About you being an antagonistic.
Who is it?
John Wedger.
Yeah.
Just let her ask questions.
Chris Fay.
Yeah.
Ain't that enough already?
This seems strange.
How you doing, everyone? My name's Brian Harvey, ex-lead singer from E17, and today I really need to make a video because I've had enough of being victimised here now, right? Right, firstly to the government, right, and to Ian Puddick, right? Don't think I don't know what you're up to, right? Everyone knows what you're doing to me, right? You're suppressing my information, right? You want to put me in prison so that I can get fans swinging, right? I've been a prisoner in my own home now, right, for about 5 years, 4 to 5 years, and it's because of Ian Puddick and Bill Maloney. And also there's another man out there, right, who's doing the rounds looking like a hero, and his name's John Wedger. Now John, you was the copper that picked me up and took me down to meet Bill Maloney the very first time, right? Let's not forget that. You took me down to meet Bill Maloney. You picked me up from my house, took me down to Parliament. I got out the back of your motor and I got into the back of another motor where I met Bill Maloney for the first time. Now I meet Bill Maloney because I offered to help him with filming because I got cameras and all the rest of it, right? Right, it's about time we have this shit right because I've had enough of this, yeah? Right, so Bill Maloney, your funder was a guy called Ian Puddick. Ian Puddick bought me a Ninja recorder to go and film an alleged Operation Fernbridge witness, right? Let's have this right, yeah? And also, James Fielding at the Express, which is where that story went in the paper on the front page. 2014, January, right, we're down there on the 10th, yeah, and on the 12th, it comes out on the Sunday, right? So we had 2 days filming down now. Now, this guy who I filmed was made to lie. Why? Because it was to discredit me and himself, right? So he's been told to mix the truth with lies. So at the end of it, you can say, oh, the whole thing's bullshit. You've all been reading off the same hymn sheet, right? From David Icke to Richie Allen to Ian Puddick to anyone in the mainstream press that I've gone to see about this, right? You've all said the same thing. Exaro News, all of you. You have all said, right, oh, this guy seems very susceptible to manipulation. That's right. That's because you lot are making him susceptible to manipulation, right? Let's have it right now, okay? Okay, right. So Bill Maloney has been missing for 3 to 4 years, right? Because of what I put out and what I was saying about him, because of what he was trying to do to me. Ian Puddick, you funded that trip to go down and film Andrew Ash. You bought me a Ninja recorder. Remember? I put the receipt online, okay? Right, now you, Mr. Puddick, are not a plumber. Let's have it right. You're good friends with the ex-defence minister, Michael Portillo, right? You're putting tweets up saying that your dad's ex-counter-terrorism, right? You've got an alleged fake backstory about the police were spent £1.5 million tracking you, right, because you was harassing the guy who had an affair with your alleged wife, right, same as Bill Maloney's got an alleged wife, and Ben Fellows has got an alleged wife, yeah, right, so what is this? Have you got to make up a fake backstory to pretend that you're a family man, to inject yourselves into the alternative media, to go out there and ruin real truthers? Because that's what I think's going on. And John Wedger, you're sitting on that commission at the minute, playing it like you're a hero. But you still seem to have Bill Maloney hanging out the back here. So what's that all about? Because are you really seriously telling me that you don't know what Bill Maloney's been doing to me, who came along to help out the goodness of my heart? Seriously, and now I've got to be trapped like a prisoner in my own home after selling 22 million records. I've never done fucking nothing to no one, and the Prime Minister don't want to talk to me when I've got evidence of phone tapping, right? You know why you don't want to talk to me? Because Andy Coulson, you are guilty of perjury. That's why David Cameron didn't want to talk to me. But what did the mainstream press do? Oh, Brian Harvey's down here, he's a nutcase. Yeah, he's here about money the government owe him. No, I'm not. I don't want your money. I don't give a fuck about your money. I'm not a money person, right? And everyone knows that, so don't try and make me out to be a money person. And Ian Puddick, right? You funded me, that ninja, to go down and film Andrew Ashworth. Let's have it right. And the Express, you filmed it and put it on the front page. Now, James Fielding, I'm calling you out because you seem to be working very closely with these people and putting the disinformation out there. Has anyone arrested James Fielding for putting that front page story of Andrew Ash out there? No, they haven't. No, they haven't. Your name ain't come into it yet. But I tell you what, you're being called out today because I don't know who you are, but on the day you didn't want your face on camera. That was for a reason. Andrew was meant to fill my head with a load of shit, and then Ian Puddick allegedly he's the one putting up Brian Harvey fails a psychological test for Big Brother. No, I didn't. I didn't do it. I was asked, but I didn't take that £500,000, which I could have quite easily gone on there and kept my mouth shut. I just chose not to get involved. You set that up, mate, and you're the one that's had my computers taken for malicious communication, yeah? I'll show you what malicious communication is, because you're talking about July and August in 2017, yeah? Well, I'll tell you what, mate. What's that? That's 2015, and I've reported you to Operation U-Tree, right? Operation Midland, Wiltshire Police, Special Branch. I've gone to Scotland Yard about it. I've been to Downing Street, yet no one seems to want to do anything. Is that because you've got connections like Michael Portillo and you're not really who you say you are? Because I can't see how a plumber is running around the alternative media, turning up on the UK column with Brian Gerrish, who is partners with Lou Collins, who's partners with Bill Maloney, who's partners with Chris Fay, who know how to get hold of Ben Fellows when he's supposedly missing, and Ben Fellows shot a film for Tony Mortimer, right, out of E17, my group, who knows Tom Watkins, I've fallen out with. Let me ask you a question. Did Tom Watkins have a special relationship with the News of the World there? Is that why you hacked me? Right, because I was going to America and you needed to set me up with your sting operation that you've now today all been caught out on, but don't want to seem to do anything about it. And you hacked off Peter Jukes and Ian Puddick, you know him and all, didn't you, mate? Yeah, you seem to know everyone. So what are you, a plumber or are you MI5? Right? Who are you, mate? Who are you? Because you've had my computers taken now and you've tried to break me down. You've tried to break me. Had me living in my house, scared to go outside. I ain't been nowhere in 5 years. UK public, I want to tell you right now, I've been scared to leave my house for 5 years. 5 years while they're out there rubbishing me. Oh, Brian Harvey made up hacking. Brian Harvey's forcing Andrew Ash into talking about VIP pedos. No, I weren't. Bill Maloney took me down now. And Ian Puddick, you funded me the bloody ninja for it. And after I go and do the interview and I catch you all out, you start doing shit like this. What did you do? Put this up at 10:10 at night, right, on the 26th of the 1st, 2015. I think you'll find that's more than a couple of years prior to you accusing me of your bullshit. Now, I'm telling you now, I want my fucking computers back, right? And if you dare put something on my computer and try and turn me into one of your fucking dirty little characters, you got a war coming your way, mate. I want you all in court. I'm going to bring a private criminal prosecution against the fucking lot of you, because I'm not going through this for another day. Basically, I've got an agent, mission control, and I think that's kind of where I'm most known for at the moment. So the BBC run mission control, and they was looking for artists to put forward for the Eurovision. It was mission control, after they've got different accusations on them. They've got loads, and they put my name forward, and they said they were interested. I said there's a lot of something, and they said basically, I've got an agent, mission control, and I think that's kind of where I'm most known for at the moment. So the BBC run mission control, and they was looking for artists to put forward for the Eurovision. It was mission control, after they've got different accusations on them. They've got loads, and they put my name forward, and they said they were interested. I said there's a lot of something, and they said
there are no limits. We must
figures
look
would
to
be
the
something
strength
like this.
of our nation, our ideal of vision.
Excuse me.
Just survive.
You know, you look like your head fell on the cheese dip back in 1957. You're okay. This one, real fucking ugly. You see, I take these glasses off, she looks like a regular person, doesn't she, huh? Put them back on, formaldehyde face. That's what we got.
That's enough out of you. You get out or I call the cops.
Call the cops? You know what you need? You need a Brazilian plastic surgeon.
I've got one that can see.
He's a tall Caucasian male, doesn't appear armed, wearing sunglasses.
I don't like this one bit. Not one bit.